I walked through my childhood home's front door after 12 hours at the hospital, expecting to see my kids doing homework at the kitchen table. Instead, I found them huddled on the porch steps, tears streaming down their faces, their backpacks thrown beside them like trash. My mother stood in the doorway, arms crossed, while my father carried my son's dresser toward the basement. "The twins need proper rooms," she announced coldly. I looked at my children, then back at my parents, and smiled. The exhaustion from my shift evaporated the moment I saw my children's devastated faces. Emma clutched her favorite stuffed elephant, the one she'd slept with since she was 3, while Noah kept wiping his nose with his sleeve. Their eyes held a confusion that broke something deep inside me, but I kept that smile frozen on my face as I walked up those familiar porch steps. "Mom, what's happening here?" I asked, my voice steady despite the fury building in my chest. My mother, Patricia, didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. She stood there in her pristine white blouse and pressed slacks, looking like she was announcing a business merger rather than destroying my children's sense of security. Marcus called during dinner. He and Jessica are expecting twins, and they need to move back while their new house is being built. We're making arrangements. Let me paint you a picture of who I am and how we got here. My name is Cynthia, and I'm 32 years old. I've been an emergency room nurse for 8 years working at Riverside General Hospital. 3 years ago, my ex-husband Brad decided that our marriage was too boring and left us for Brittany, his 22-year-old yoga instructor who posted motivational quotes on Instagram between selfies. The divorce cleaned me out. Between lawyer fees and Brad somehow convincing the judge that his entrepreneurial ventures meant he couldn't pay substantial child support, I couldn't afford to keep our apartment. My parents offered to let us move in with them. Family helps family. My father had said back then, helping us carry our boxes into their 4-bedroom colonial. For 2 years, we'd made it work. Emma and Noah each had their own room on the 2nd floor right down the hall from where I'd grown up. I paid them $500 monthly, bought groceries, did the cooking and cleaning, and kept my kids quiet during my father's golf tournament viewing sessions. But now, as I stood there watching my father, Robert, hauling my 8-year-old son's furniture like it was garbage day, I realized that their definition of family had always been selective. Marcus is coming home. I kept my tone neutral professional. It's a skill you develop in the ER, staying calm when everything around you is chaos. He's been so successful in Manhattan. My mother gushed, her entire demeanor changing at the mention of her firstborn. Investment banking has been very good to him, but with twins on the way, they need more space than their penthouse provides. They're building a gorgeous place in Westchester, but construction takes time. Marcus, my older brother by 4 years, the golden child who could do no wrong. While I was bandaging scraped knees and learning to start IVs, he was getting his MBA from Wharton. While I was working double shifts to pay for diapers, he was posting pictures from his business trips to Tokyo and London. He visited maybe twice a year, usually around the holidays, bringing expensive wine and stories about deals worth millions. And my children. I gestured to Emma and Noah, who were still sitting on the steps like abandoned puppies. "The basement has plenty of space," my father said, returning for another load. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "One big room for both of them. Kids are adaptable." The basement. I repeated, my voice dangerously quiet. Emma must have heard something in my tone because she looked up at me with those big brown eyes, still trusting despite everything. "Don't be dramatic, Cynthia." My mother sighed as if I was the one being unreasonable. "It's temporary. Once Marcus and Jessica are settled in their new place, we can reassess." "When are they arriving?" I asked. 3 weeks, but we wanted to get everything ready. You know how particular Jessica is about her environment. My mother's tone suggested this was a positive quality rather than high-maintenance behavior. I remembered Jessica from last Christmas. She'd spent the entire visit complaining about the thread count of the guest room sheets and asking if our turkey was free-range, organic, and humanely raised. She'd looked at my children like they were sticky hazards to her designer clothes. "I see. I said, nodding slowly. And you decided to do this while I was at work because… My mother waved her hand dismissively. We knew you'd make a fuss. This is what's best for everyone. Marcus's children deserve a proper nursery, and the twins will need separate rooms eventually. Your children can share. Siblings should bond. I wanted to laugh at the irony. When had Marcus and I ever bonded? When he'd told me I was wasting my potential becoming a nurse. When he'd asked at my wedding if I was sure I wanted to marry a guy who sold insurance. When he'd sent a check for $100 after my divorce with a note saying, for the kids, like he was some generous benefactor. Mom, I'm scared, Noah whispered, and something in my chest cracked. My baby boy, who tried so hard to be brave, who dealt with asthma attacks without complaint, was scared in what was supposed to be his home. I knelt beside my children, pulling them both close. They smelled like apple juice and crayon wax, like innocence and trust. Hey, look at me, I said softly. Everything's going to be fine. Better than fine. But Grandma says we have to live in the basement, Emma said, her voice shaking. There are spiders down there, and it smells funny. I glanced up at my parents. My father had paused in his furniture, moving, looking uncomfortable. My mother was checking her phone, probably texting Marcus about the wonderful preparations. Actually, I said, standing up and brushing off my scrubs, I think this is perfect timing. My mother looked up sharply. What do you mean? I mean, you're right. It's time for some changes around here. I smiled again, wider this time. Kids, go pack your special things, the important stuff. We're going on an adventure. Cynthia, stop being ridiculous, my mother snapped. Where would you even go? You can barely afford gas for that ancient Honda. You're right, I agreed pleasantly. I should be grateful for your hospitality. So grateful that I'm going to give you exactly what you want. Space for Marcus and his family. My father finally spoke up. Now, sweetheart, let's not be hasty. The basement is perfectly adequate. For my children, I finished. Your grandchildren, the ones who've lived here for 2 years, who do their homework at your kitchen table, who help you plant tomatoes in your garden. Marcus needs our support, my mother said firmly. He's building a future. His children will have advantages, opportunities. That mine won't. The smile was getting harder to maintain. Because their father left, because I'm just a nurse. You know that's not what we mean, my father said weakly. But I did know. I'd always known. Every family photo on the mantel showed Marcus at twice the size of any picture of me. Every dinner conversation revolved around his latest success. Every achievement of mine was met with, "That's nice, dear," while his participation trophy from high school debate team still sat in a place of honor. When Marcus called earlier, my mother continued oblivious to the damage she was causing. He mentioned needing the entire second floor. The twins will require a nursery, and Jessica needs a personal space for her meditation and yoga. It's important for prenatal development. Of course it is, I murmured. Behind me, I heard Emma whisper to Noah, asking if they did something wrong. My brave girl trying to protect her little brother while her world crumbled. I should get the kids settled, I said, moving toward them. We'll get out of your way. See, I knew you'd be reasonable, my mother said, relief evident in her voice. The basement isn't that bad. We'll put in a dehumidifier. I gathered my children, one hand on each small shoulder. Come on, loves. Let's go see what Grandma and Grandpa have planned for us. As we walked through the house I'd grown up in, past the kitchen where my mother had taught me to make cookies, past the living room where we'd opened Christmas presents, I felt like I was seeing it all for the first time. This wasn't a home. It was a museum dedicated to one child, and I'd been fooling myself thinking we belonged here. The basement door creaked open, releasing a musty smell that made Noah cough. The wooden stairs were narrow and steep. At the bottom, a single bare bulb illuminated a concrete space filled with holiday decorations, old furniture, and boxes labeled, "Marcus, Save Everything." My father had already moved one of the twin beds down, placing it against the wall where a water stain suggested past flooding. Emma's beloved bookshelf was shoved in a corner, her carefully organized books now jumbled in boxes. "See," my mother said from the top of the stairs. "Plenty of room once we organize. The furnace will keep you warm in winter." The furnace. My children would be sleeping next to the furnace in a room with exposed pipes and a concrete floor, while their cousins, who didn't even exist yet, got their beautiful bedrooms with hardwood floors and morning sunlight. Noah started wheezing slightly, his breathing shallow. The dust and mold were already affecting him. I reached for my purse, checking for his inhaler, my mind racing with possibilities I hadn't dared consider before. "We'll make it work," I said, my voice carrying a determination my parents missed entirely. "We always do." My mother nodded approvingly and headed back upstairs, already lost in plans for Marcus's triumphant return. My father lingered a moment longer, perhaps sensing something in my tone, but eventually he too retreated, leaving us in the dim basement. I pulled my children close, feeling their small bodies tremble against mine. Emma was trying not to cry, being strong for her brother. Noah was clutching his chest slightly, the way he did when his asthma was starting to act up. "Listen to me," I whispered, my lips close to their ears. "This is not your fault. You did nothing wrong. You are perfect and loved and deserving of so much better than this." "Why does Uncle Marcus matter more?" Emma asked in a small voice. I could have lied, could have made excuses, could have tried to preserve their relationship with their grandparents. Instead, I chose truth. Sometimes people show you who they really are, and when they do, we need to believe them and act accordingly. "What are we going to do, Mommy?" Noah asked, his breathing still labored. I stood up, looking around the basement one last time. Upstairs, I could hear my parents moving furniture, preparing for their prodigal son's return. They had no idea that they'd just set in motion something they could never undo. "We're going to show them what happens when you underestimate a mother protecting her children," I said softly. "But first, let's get your inhaler and make sure you're okay." As we climbed back up those stairs, leaving the damp basement behind, I felt something shift inside me. The smile I'd worn earlier wasn't fake anymore. It was real, fueled by a determination I hadn't felt since the day I decided to become a nurse, despite everyone telling me I should aim higher. My parents had made their choice. Now it was time to make mine. The next morning arrived with the kind of gray drizzle that matched my mood perfectly. I'd barely slept, listening to Noah's slightly wheezing breath from the air mattress we'd set up in my room. Both kids had refused to sleep in the basement, and I didn't blame them. Even I could smell the mold from the doorway. I left the kids with bowls of cereal and cartoons, then descended back into what my parents expected to become my children's new bedroom. In daylight, filtered through one grimy window well, the space looked even worse. Water stains mapped territories across the concrete walls like some dystopian continent. The dehumidifier my mother had mentioned was nowhere to be seen, but there were plenty of spider webs in the corners and suspicious droppings along the baseboards. "This is where they want my babies to live," I muttered, running my finger along a shelf and coming away with dust thick enough to write in. I started moving boxes to clear floor space, each one labeled in my mother's careful handwriting. Marcus, baseball trophies. Marcus, high school yearbooks. Marcus, Boy Scout medals. My entire childhood had been spent making room for his achievements, and now my children were literally being stored in a basement to make room for more of his presence. As I shifted a particularly heavy box marked "Financial Records Keep Forever," several folders spilled onto the floor. I knelt to gather them, and a familiar logo caught my eye. Hartfield Property Management. My hands stilled. Inside the folder were rental agreements, 3 of them, each for a different property, all signed by my parents as landlords. I sank onto a dusty storage container, reading through the documents with growing disbelief. A 3-bedroom house on Maple Street, renting for $1,500 monthly. A duplex on Oak Avenue, each unit bringing in $1,200. A small cottage near the university, perfect for graduate students, $700 a month. My parents, who'd told me repeatedly they were on a fixed income, who'd accepted my $500 monthly like they were doing me a favor, were collecting $4,500 in rental income every month. You've got to be kidding me. I whispered, my hands shaking as I flipped through payment records, maintenance requests, lease renewals. They'd owned these properties for years. While I was sleeping on an air mattress during my divorce proceedings, crying into my pillow about not being able to afford a security deposit anywhere they had 3 empty houses. What are you doing? I looked up to find my mother at the top of the stairs, her face twisted in indignation. She descended quickly for a woman in her 60s, her house slippers slapping against each step. These are rental properties, I said, holding up the folder. You own 3 houses. She snatched the folder from my hands with surprising force. That's private business information. You have no right to go through our things. I was clearing space for my children to live in your moldy basement. I shot back, standing to face her. But it turns out you have 3 perfectly good houses they could be living in instead. Those are investments, she said, clutching the folder to her chest, for our retirement. Your retirement, Mom? You're already retired. Dad's been retired for 5 years. How much money do you need? Her face flushed. You don't understand finance like Marcus does. He helped us set up this portfolio. It's about building wealth, creating a legacy. A legacy. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. What about your grandchildren living in a basement? Is that the legacy you want? Don't be dramatic. Plenty of children share bedrooms. This isn't a bedroom, I gestured around the space. It's a storage unit with a window. There's mold, Mom. Actual black mold. Noah has asthma. He could end up in the hospital. She waved dismissively. A little cleaning will fix that. And the mice. I pointed to the droppings I'd spotted earlier. The spiders. The fact that it floods when it rains heavily. You're exaggerating. Am I? I pulled out my phone and started taking pictures. The water stains the mold in the corners, the mouse droppings, the rusted pipes overhead. Should I send these to the health department? Ask their opinion. My mother's face went from flushed to pale. You wouldn't dare. Try me, I said quietly. I've worked in the ER for 8 years. I've seen what happens to kids with respiratory issues who live in conditions like this. I filled out the reports. I know exactly who to call. We stood there, mother and daughter, facing off in a basement that smelled of neglect and broken promises. Upstairs, I could hear Emma reading to Noah, her sweet voice carrying through the floorboards. She was reading him his favorite book about a brave little train, and my heart clenched at how she was trying to comfort him. Why, I finally asked, why are you doing this to us? My mother's expression softened for a moment, and I thought maybe I'd reached her. Then she straightened her spine and lifted her chin. Marcus needs our support. He's worked so hard, achieved so much. His children deserve the best we can give them. And mine don't. Yours have you, she said, as if that was explanation enough. You're strong, Cynthia. You always have been. You don't need us the way Marcus does. I stared at her, this woman who'd raised me, who'd put Band-Aids on my scraped knees and attended my nursing school graduation. You're right, I said finally. I don't need you, and neither do my children. Fear flickered across her face. What's that supposed to mean? It means, I said, brushing past her toward the stairs, that you've shown me exactly where we stand. Message received loud and clear. Cynthia, wait. She followed me up the stairs, the folder still clutched to her chest. Let's not blow this out of proportion. The basement is temporary. Everything's temporary, Mom, I said, pausing at the top of the stairs. Even family, apparently. I found my father in the kitchen reading his newspaper and drinking coffee like this was any other morning. He looked up when we entered, taking in my mother's flustered appearance and my stone-cold expression. Everything all right? He asked carefully. Our daughter was snooping through private documents, my mother announced. I found out about your rental properties, I said bluntly. 3 houses sitting there earning you money while my kids are being moved into a moldy basement. My father's newspaper lowered slowly. Now, princess. Don't, I cut him off. Don't princess me like I'm still 5 years old throwing a tantrum. I'm a grown woman watching her parents choose their absent son over their present daughter and grandchildren. It's not like that, he said weakly. Then what's it like, Dad? Explain it to me. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you have the means to help us, but choose not to. It looks like Marcus's theoretical children matter more than Emma and Noah, who are right here right now calling you Grandpa and helping you in your garden. My mother recovered her composure. Marcus asked us specifically to keep one property available for him. He and Jessica might need it while their house is being built. The final piece clicked into place. You're giving him a house, a whole house, rent-free, I'm assuming. Their silence was answer enough. Unbelievable, I muttered, heading for the living room where my children were. Absolutely unbelievable. My mother's voice followed me. He's family. I turned back, my vision blurring with unshed tears. So are we, or we were anyway. I found my kids right where I'd left them, but Emma looked up with worry in her eyes. She was too perceptive, my girl. She knew something was wrong beyond just the basement situation. Mom, are we in trouble? She asked in a small voice. I sat between them, pulling them close. No, baby, you're not in trouble. Sometimes adults make choices that hurt other people even when they shouldn't. But that's not your fault. Is it because Daddy left? Noah asked, his inhaler in his hand. Grandma said something about proper fathers at dinner once. White-hot rage flashed through me, but I kept my voice gentle. Your father leaving was his choice and his loss. It has nothing to do with your worth or how much you deserve to be loved and cared for. My father appeared in the doorway, looking older than his 68 years. Cynthia, can we talk about this rationally? Sure, I said, not moving from my spot between my children. Let's be rational. You have $4,500 in monthly rental income I just found out about. You're giving Marcus a free house worth at least $1,200 a month in rent. You're moving my asthmatic son into a moldy basement. What's the rational explanation for that? He shifted uncomfortably. Marcus has expenses. The cost of living in Manhattan, building a new house, twins on the way. I have expenses too, I pointed out. But I pay rent here. I buy groceries, I cook dinners, I clean. What does Marcus contribute besides holiday visits and the occasional phone call? He manages our investments, my mother said from behind my father. His financial expertise has grown our portfolio considerably. How nice for your portfolio, I said dryly. I'm sure it will keep you warm at night when you wonder why your grandchildren don't visit anymore. You're being overdramatic. My mother sighed. No one's saying you have to leave. Just be flexible about the sleeping arrangements. I stood up, decision crystallizing in my mind. You're right. I should be flexible. Kids, go upstairs and pack your favorite things, the stuff you can't live without. Where are we going? Emma asked, even as she stood obediently. On an adventure, I said, managing a genuine smile for her. Trust me. They scampered upstairs and I faced my parents. I need some air, to think. I'll be back later. Cynthia, my father started. I need to think, I repeated firmly, about flexibility and family and what's best for everyone. I grabbed my purse and keys, my mind racing with possibilities. In my wallet was a debit card linked to an account they knew nothing about. 3 years of overtime shifts, holiday pay, and picking up extra hours whenever possible. $47,000 that I'd hidden even from Brad during the divorce paranoid he'd somehow claim it. I'd been saving for a house down payment for the day when I could give my kids stability again. Maybe that day was coming sooner than I'd planned. As I drove away from my parents' house, I didn't look in the rearview mirror. I'd spent too much time looking backward, hoping for something that was never really there. It was time to look forward instead. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Don't do anything rash. Think of the children. I laughed a harsh sound in the quiet car. I was thinking of the children. For the first time in 2 years, I was thinking clearly about what my children deserved and what I needed to do to give it to them. The rain had stopped and weak sunlight was breaking through the clouds. It felt like a sign, like possibility, like hope. I had $47,000, a nursing degree, 8 years of experience, and 2 kids who deserved better than a moldy basement, and grandparents who saw them as inconveniences. It wasn't much against the world, but it was more than nothing. And sometimes, more than nothing is all you need to start. That evening, my mother announced we were having a family meeting after dinner. The way she said it with careful enunciation and a formal tone told me this was going to be their official decree about the new living arrangements. I spent the meal cutting Noah's chicken into smaller pieces and encouraging Emma to eat her vegetables, while my parents sat in unusual silence. "Children, why don't you go watch TV in the living room?" my mother suggested after the plates were cleared. "The adults need to talk." Emma looked at me questioningly. At 10, she was old enough to know when she was being excluded from something important. I nodded. "Go ahead, sweetie. I'll come get you soon." Once they were gone, my mother opened her laptop with the efficiency of someone presenting a corporate restructuring. "Marcus will be joining us virtually," she announced, turning the screen so we could all see. The video call connected, and there was my brother sitting in what looked like an expensive office with floor-to-ceiling windows behind him. Even through the computer screen, his suit probably cost more than I made in a month. "Hey, family," Marcus said with that easy smile that had charmed teachers and employers his whole life. "Thanks for making time for this." "Of course, sweetheart," my mother cooed. "Jessica, are you there too?" The camera angle widened to show Jessica perfectly made up, despite it being 8 in the evening, her hands folded over what I assumed was her supposedly pregnant belly. "Hello, Patricia. Robert, Cynthia." The way she said my name like it was something unpleasant she'd stepped in set my teeth on edge. "Let's get right to business," Marcus said, ever the banker. "Mom, Dad, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you making room for us. This transition period is crucial, and knowing we have your support means everything." "Anything for our grandchildren," my mother said warmly. "Future grandchildren," I corrected. "They're not even born yet." Jessica's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose. "They're very much real to us, Cynthia. Perhaps when you're expecting again, you'll understand the bond that forms even before birth." The casual cruelty of that statement, knowing I was divorced and solely focused on raising the kids, I had hung in the air like a slap. "Speaking of the twins," Marcus continued smoothly, "we've been thinking about the space requirements. Newborns need more than just a nursery. There's the equipment, the feeding station, the changing areas. Jessica's doctor has recommended she have a peaceful environment for the last trimester." "Of course," my father agreed immediately. "Whatever you need." "We were thinking," Jessica said, leaning forward, "that the entire second floor would be ideal. The master bedroom for us, the 2 other rooms for the nurseries, and the 4th bedroom as a meditation and prenatal yoga space." "That's all 4 bedrooms," I pointed out unnecessarily. "Yes," Marcus said, as if I'd made his point for him. "Which is why we're so grateful Mom and Dad have a solution for Emma and Noah. Kids are so adaptable at that age." "A moldy basement isn't a solution," I said flatly. "Cynthia's being dramatic," my mother told Marcus. "It just needs a little freshening up." "I'm sure it's fine," Jessica said dismissively. "Children need to learn resilience. Too much comfort makes them soft." I stared at her through the screen, this woman who complained if her sparkling water wasn't the right temperature, lecturing me about making my children resilient. "There's more," Marcus said, shooting Jessica a look that suggested she should stop talking. "Mom, Dad, we need to discuss the financial arrangements." My father shifted in his seat. "Of course, son, whatever you need to get settled." "The house construction has gone over budget," Marcus explained. "These contractors, you know how it is. They find one problem and suddenly the whole foundation needs work. We're looking at an additional $200,000 above our original estimate." $200,000, my father repeated, his voice slightly strained. "I know it's a lot," Marcus said with practiced regret, "but this is an investment in your grandchildren's future. The house will be in the best school district with enough space for them to grow. It's what's best for the family. My mother was already nodding. We'll figure it out. Won't we, Robert? Grandma left us each $100,000, I said suddenly. That money is supposed to be split between Marcus and me. Silence descended on the room. My parents exchanged glances. Marcus's jaw tightened on the screen. That money, my father said slowly, is in a trust for the family's future. Right, I agreed. Marcus's share and my share, 50-50. That's what Grandma wanted. Circumstances change, my mother said. Marcus needs it now. You can have your share later when things are more stable. More stable. I laughed incredulously. I'm a single mother of 2. When exactly do you think things will be more stable? When you remarry, Jessica suggested helpfully, find a good provider, someone who can take care of you properly. I take care of myself properly, I snapped. I have a career, I pay my bills, I raise my children. In your parents' house, Marcus pointed out. Come on, Sin, be realistic. I'm building something here, a legacy. The twins will have opportunities, advantages. This money will multiply in their hands. And what about Emma and Noah's hands? I asked. What about their opportunities? They have you, Marcus said, echoing our mother's words from earlier. You've always been the responsible one, the practical one. You don't need the money like we do. I don't need it. I stood up, unable to sit still any longer. Do you know what I could do? With $100,000, I could buy a house. A real house with bedrooms that don't have mold and windows that aren't at ground level. I could invest in my children's education, their future. Cynthia, please, my mother said. Don't make this difficult. The decision is made. By who? I demanded. When do I get a say in my own inheritance? When you learn to think like a family. My father said quietly, but his words hit like a physical blow. I do think like a family, I said, my voice shaking. I think about my family, my children, the ones who are here, who exist, who need stability now, not theoretical twins who haven't even been born yet. That's enough, my mother said sharply. Marcus and Jessica are making sacrifices to come home. The least we can do is support them properly. Sacrifices. I turned to the screen. What sacrifices, Marcus? Tell me. What are you giving up? He shifted uncomfortably. The Manhattan lifestyle isn't cheap, Sin. We have obligations, appearances to maintain. While my kids live in a basement, it's temporary, everyone seemed to say at once. I looked at each of them, my parents who'd raised me. My brother who'd shared my childhood, his wife who looked at my children like they were nuisances. You're really doing this. You're really choosing his potential children over my actual ones. No one's choosing, my mother insisted. We're being practical. Marcus needs the support now. Your time will come. My time. I smiled, but it felt like my face might crack. My time was when Brad left. My time was when I couldn't afford groceries and daycare in the same week. My time was when Noah needed breathing treatments and my insurance wouldn't cover the full cost. But sure, let's wait for my time. You managed, my father pointed out. You always do. Because I had to. The words exploded out of me. Because no one else was going to do it. Because while you were writing checks to Marcus for his MBA and his apartment deposits and his business ventures that never panned out, I was working double shifts and going to school and raising babies. I managed because I had no choice. Sin. Marcus started, his investment banker voice sliding into place. This isn't personal. It's about maximizing resources for the greatest return. My earning potential. Stop. I cut him off. Just stop. Don't talk to me about earning potential while you're taking my grandmother's money and moving into my parents' house rent-free. Don't lecture me about returns when my children are the ones paying the price. I heard footsteps on the stairs and turned to see Emma peeking around the corner, Noah behind her. They'd heard everything. Of course they had. Houses like this were built for families who spoke lovingly to each other, not for keeping devastating secrets. Mommy, Emma said in a small voice, Are we not really family? The room went silent. Even through the computer screen, I could see Marcus and Jessica exchange uncomfortable glances. My parents suddenly found the table very interesting. I walked to my children kneeling down to their level. "You are my family," I told them firmly. "You are my whole heart. Don't ever doubt that." "But Grandma and Grandpa," Noah's voice trailed off. I looked back at my parents. "That's a good question. Mom, Dad, are Emma and Noah your family?" "Of course they are," my mother said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Then why do we have to live in the basement?" Emma asked directly. "Why does Uncle Marcus get our rooms when he doesn't even live here?" My father cleared his throat. "It's complicated, sweetheart." "No," I said, standing up and taking my children's hands. "It's not complicated at all. It's actually very simple. Some people know how to love, and some people only know how to keep score." "Cynthia," my mother warned. "We'll be out by the weekend," I announced. "You can have the whole house for Marcus and his family. We won't be in your way anymore." "Where will you go?" my father asked, genuine concern finally creeping into his voice. "Somewhere we're wanted," I said simply. "Somewhere my children matter as much as anyone else's." "You're being ridiculous," Marcus said from the screen. "You can't afford to move out. Be practical for once in your life." I looked at him. Really? Looked at him. My big brother who'd gotten everything he'd ever wanted and still needed more. "You know what, Marcus?" "You're right. I can't afford a lot of things. I can't afford a Manhattan apartment or a house in Westchester or an MBA from Wharton. But you know what else I can't afford? To let my children grow up thinking they're worth less than cousins who don't even exist yet. I can't afford to teach them that love is conditional and family is just another word for hierarchy. That's a price I'm not willing to pay." I guided my children toward the door, pausing to look back one more time. "Enjoy your meeting. I'm sure you have lots more to plan. Just remember when those twins are born, and you're wondering why Emma and Noah don't want to play with their cousins, why they don't call, why they don't visit. Remember this moment. Remember that you had a choice and you made it." "Cynthia, wait," my father called out, but I was already heading upstairs with my children. In their rooms, we packed quietly and efficiently. Emma folded her clothes with careful precision while Noah gathered his action figures. Neither of them cried. They'd learned already that sometimes tears don't change anything. "Where are we going to live?" Noah asked, zipping up his backpack. "Somewhere better," I promised him. "Somewhere with windows that let in sunlight and air that doesn't make you wheeze." "Will we still go to the same school?" Emma worried. "I'll make sure of it," I told her, though I wasn't sure how, "even if I have to drive you myself every morning." As we packed, I heard the meeting continuing downstairs, voices rising and falling. Marcus discussing construction schedules, Jessica talking about nursery themes, my parents promising support resources whatever was needed. By the time we'd filled 3 suitcases and several boxes with their most important belongings, the house was quiet. My parents must have gone to bed satisfied with their decisions, confident I'd come to my senses by morning. I tucked my children into my bed, their small bodies fitting perfectly on either side of me. Emma had brought her elephant and Noah clutched his favorite toy car. They fell asleep eventually, their breathing evening out into the rhythm of exhausted children who'd had their world turned upside down. But I stayed awake staring at the ceiling of my childhood room planning our escape. $47,000, a nursing degree, 2 children who deserved better. It wasn't much, but it was ours. And sometimes that's all you need to start building something new. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in the dark with my laptop, the screen's blue glow, the only light in the room besides the moon filtering through curtains I'd hung in high school. My children breathed evenly beside me, exhausted from the emotional upheaval of finding out they were being relocated like furniture. The banking website loaded slowly as if understanding the weight of what I was about to do. I entered my credentials for the account nobody knew existed, not even Brad during our divorce. My emergency fund built dollar by painful dollar over 3 years of sacrifice. $47,238. Every extra shift was there. Every holiday I'd worked while others celebrated with their families. Every time I'd packed peanut butter sandwiches for lunch instead of buying food at the hospital cafeteria. Every birthday where I'd told friends I didn't need presents because what I needed was overtime pay. I stared at the number, remembering the day I'd opened this account. It was 2 weeks after Brad announced he was leaving when I'd realized that trusting someone else with my financial security was a luxury I couldn't afford anymore. The bank teller had looked at my $100 opening deposit with kind eyes and said, "Everyone starts somewhere, honey." Now I scrolled through apartment listings, my heart sinking with each posting. Downtown efficiency, $700 monthly plus utilities. 1 bedroom near the Highway 900, but no pets and no children's noise after 8 p.m. 2 bedroom in a complex with 3 recent shootings. $600 but first month last month, and security deposit required up front. Everything decent required almost $3,000 just to move in. Then there would be utility deposits, moving costs, groceries to stock an empty kitchen. My salary was good for a single income, but not good enough to make living alone in a safe neighborhood easy. I switched tabs to look at houses for sale, knowing it was probably futile but needing to dream. There were beautiful homes in good school districts, places with yards where Noah could run without wheezing, where Emma could have a reading nook by a window. All of them might as well have been castles in foreign countries for how attainable they were. My phone buzzed with an email notification. Who was sending work emails at 3 a.m? I clicked it open, expecting spam or a shift reminder. Instead, I saw the hospital logo and a subject line that made my heart skip: Nursing Director position, New Riverside Satellite Campus. I read the email 3 times before the words fully registered. Dr. Patricia Wong, our Chief Nursing Officer, was personally reaching out to senior nurses about a leadership opportunity at the new facility being built 2 hours north. They needed someone with emergency department experience to help establish protocols and build a team from the ground up. The salary range made me blink and check again. $90,000 to $95,000 annually, plus a $10,000 signing bonus for relocation. Relocation. I whispered the word like a prayer. The new facility was in Millbrook, a small city I'd driven through once on a weekend trip with the kids. It had a quaint downtown with coffee shops and bookstores, good schools with art programs and actual music classes, the kind of place where kids rode bikes to school and families had barbecues in backyards. My hands shook as I clicked the link to the full job description. They wanted someone with at least 5 years of emergency experience check, leadership potential, and I'd been charge nurse for the past 2 years, excellence in patient care, and my evaluation scores were consistently in the top tier. The application deadline was Monday, just 3 days away. I glanced at my sleeping children. Emma's face was peaceful in sleep, the worry lines that no 10-year-old should have finally smoothed away. Noah had kicked off his blanket, and I gently pulled it back up, feeling the wheeze in his chest that never quite went away in this house. Was I really considering this? Uprooting them, completely taking them away from the only home they'd known since the divorce? Then I remembered my mother's words: "The basement is perfectly adequate." I opened a new document and started typing my cover letter. If they wanted leadership, I'd give them the leader who'd managed a level 1 trauma center's night shift through COVID. If they wanted excellence, I'd show them the nurse who'd been requested by name by doctors for the most critical cases. If they wanted someone who could build something from nothing, I'd prove that a woman who'd kept her family together with determination and peanut butter sandwiches could build anything. By the time the sun started creeping through the windows, I'd completed the entire application. My resume was updated references, listed cover letter, polished until it shined. I attached copies of my certifications, my bachelor's in nursing, the additional training I'd completed in trauma and pediatric emergency care. Before I could second-guess myself, I hit submit. Then I sat there in the growing light, watching my children sleep, and started planning for possibilities I hadn't dared consider before. If I got this job, the signing bonus alone would cover moving expenses and deposits. The salary increase would mean I could actually afford a house payment. Benefits would include better insurance for Noah's asthma, maybe even the specialist I'd been putting off because our current plan considered it non-essential. My phone buzzed with a confirmation email. Thank you for your application. Due to urgent staffing needs, interviews are being conducted this week. Please be available for potential scheduling on short notice. Short notice? I almost laughed. My entire life had become short notice the moment my parents decided my children belonged in a basement. Emma stirred her eyes, fluttering open. Mommy, is it morning? Yes, baby, I said softly, closing my laptop. It's a new morning. Are we really moving? She asked, worry creeping back into her voice. We might be, I told her honestly, but not just anywhere. Somewhere special, somewhere just for us. Without Grandma and Grandpa, I thought about lying about softening the blow, about protecting her from adult disappointments. But she'd already heard too much last night, already knew that sometimes the people who should love you most can let you down. They made their choice, I said carefully. Now we get to make ours, and I choose you and Noah always. She nodded solemnly, then brightened slightly. Can I have a purple room in our new house? You can have any color you want. I promised, meaning it. Even if I had to paint it myself, even if it took a dozen coats, she'd have her purple room. Noah woke up, then coughing slightly. I reached for his inhaler, helping him take his morning dose, and made a decision. I wasn't going to wait for the weekend. We were leaving today. Let's get dressed, I told them. We're going on an adventure. Where? Noah asked between puffs of medicine. First, we're going to see your Aunt Angela. Remember her from the hospital? She has a guest room and makes the best chocolate chip pancakes. Their eyes lit up. Angela had been my rock through the divorce, the one person who'd never judged me for staying with my parents, who'd understood that sometimes survival looked like swallowing your pride. As the kids got dressed, I texted Angela SOS. Can we crash with you for a few days? I'll explain everything. Her response was immediate, despite the early hour. Already making up the guest room. Come home, honey. Home. Not my parents' house, where we paid rent to be treated like intruders. Not the basement that was deemed good enough for my babies, but to someone who actually wanted us. I heard movement downstairs, the coffee maker starting my father's morning news routine beginning. Normal sounds for a normal morning, as if they hadn't shattered something irreparable the night before. Pack light, I told the kids. Just your favorite things. We'll come back for the rest later. Maybe it was petty, but I wanted my parents to see us leave. I wanted them to watch us walk out with our suitcases and understand that this was real, that consequences existed even for people who thought love was a limited resource to be hoarded and rationed. We made our way downstairs, each child rolling a small suitcase, me with 2 bags over my shoulders. My parents were in the kitchen, my mother making eggs, my father hidden behind his newspaper. Going somewhere, my mother asked, her tone suggesting she thought this was a performance. Angela's, I said simply. The kids need some space to process everything. Don't be ridiculous, she sighed. You're not going to impose on your friend because you're having a tantrum. It's not an imposition when you're actually wanted, I replied, helping Noah zip his jacket. My father lowered his paper. Cynthia, let's talk about this rationally. You can't just leave. Watch me, I said, then caught myself. My children were watching, learning how to handle conflict, how to stand up for themselves. Actually, you're right. Let's be rational. I found rental listings last night. The going rate for a basement apartment, even an unfinished one, is about $600 a month. I've been paying you $500 for a shared space. By my calculation, you actually owe me money, but we'll call it even. You're being petty, my mother snapped. I'm being practical, I corrected. Just like you taught me. Marcus would be proud. I'm maximizing my resources, finding better returns on my investments. My children are my investment, and this house is showing negative returns. Emma tugged on my hand. Mommy, can we go? My stomach hurts. Anxiety. My baby girl was getting stress stomach aches at 10 years old. Yes, sweetheart. We're going right now. I looked at my parents one more time. I'll be in touch about getting the rest of our things. Please don't throw anything away. Unlike some people, those belongings actually matter to us." My father stood up, finally showing some emotion. "Princess, please, don't leave like this. We're family." "Are we?" I asked, genuinely curious, because family doesn't charge family rent while giving others free houses. Family doesn't put children in moldy basements. Family doesn't take inheritance meant to be shared. So maybe we're not family. Maybe we're just people who happen to share DNA. "You'll be back," my mother said coldly. "When reality sets in, when you realize you can't do this alone, you'll come back." I smiled, then the same smile I'd worn when I first saw my children on those porch steps. You know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe I'll fail. Maybe this will all blow up in my face. But at least my children will know I tried. They'll know that when someone treated them as less than I didn't accept it. I didn't make excuses. I didn't tell them to be grateful for scraps. I fought for them. We left then, walking out into a morning that felt full of terrifying possibility. The kids climbed into my old Honda, buckling themselves in with practiced efficiency. As I started the engine, I saw my father in the doorway looking older than I'd ever seen him. For a moment, I felt the pull of guilt, the trained response of a daughter who'd spent her life trying to earn love that should have been free. Then Noah coughed in the back seat, and Emma asked quietly if Aunt Angela would really want them there, and the guilt transformed into something harder, more useful: determination. I pulled out of the driveway of my childhood home for what might be the last time, and I didn't look back. In my phone was an email about a job interview that could change everything. In my bank account was money I'd saved for exactly this moment, even if I hadn't known it at the time. In my back seat were 2 children who deserved better. It was terrifying. It was exhilarating. It was freedom. "Mommy," Emma asked as we drove toward Angela's apartment, "are you crying?" I touched my face, surprised to find it wet. Happy tears, baby. Sometimes when you've been holding your breath for a really long time, it makes you cry when you finally breathe. She nodded as if this made perfect sense. "I think I've been holding my breath too." "Then let's breathe together," I suggested, and we did. 3 deep breaths as we drove towards something new, something uncertain, but something that was ours. The morning sun climbed higher, burning off the last of yesterday's rain, and I let myself imagine what might be possible. A job that valued what I could offer, a house where my children had their own rooms with windows and clean air, a life where love wasn't rationed or conditional or tied to someone else's definition of success. It might all fall apart. The job might go to someone else. The money might run out. We might struggle and scramble and barely make it. But we'd do it together, the 3 of us, and that was more than enough to start. The next morning came too quickly and not fast enough. I'd barely slept on Angela's couch, my mind racing between interview preparation and the surreal reality of what I'd done. My children were still asleep in her guest room, curled together like puppies, finally breathing easily in air that didn't smell of mold and disappointment. Angela emerged from her bedroom in scrubs holding 2 cups of coffee. "You ready for this?" "Do I look ready?" I asked, gesturing at the professional outfit I'd cobbled together from what I'd grabbed in our hasty exit. The navy blazer was wrinkled but passable, the slacks a bit loose from stress-induced weight loss. "You look like a woman about to change her life," she said, handing me the coffee. "I called in favors. Miguel from day shift will watch the kids. He's bringing his daughter Sophia so they'll have someone to play with." I nearly cried at her kindness. "Angela, I don't know how to thank you." "Just nail this interview," she said firmly. "Show them what those idiots at your parents' house couldn't see." I left before dawn, driving through empty streets toward Millbrook. The GPS showed an hour and 47 minutes to destination, giving me too much time to think. What if they'd already filled the position? What if I fumbled the interview? What if? But then I remembered Emma asking if her cousins who didn't exist yet were more important than her, and my hand steadied on the wheel. I had no room for what-ifs. Only what now? The new Riverside satellite facility was still under construction, but the administrative offices were set up in a temporary building nearby. I parked between a cement mixer and a delivery truck, the chaos of creation all around me. It felt appropriate somehow, interviewing for a new life while surrounded by the bones of something being built from scratch. The receptionist, a young man with kind eyes, checked me in. "Dr. Coleman is running a few minutes behind. Construction meeting ran over. Can I get you some water?" "I'm fine, thank you," I said, though my throat felt like sandpaper. I sat in the waiting area reviewing my notes one more time. Leadership philosophy, experience with protocol development, vision for emergency services. I'd prepared for every possible question except the one that mattered most. How badly did I want this? The answer was simple. More than I'd ever wanted anything except my children's safety and happiness. "Cynthia, I'm Dr. Sarah Coleman." I looked up to find a woman about my age wearing steel-toed boots with her business suit construction dust in her dark hair. She smiled, and it reached her eyes. "I apologize for the delay," she said, leading me to her office. The contractors had questions about the trauma bay specifications. Apparently, my insistence on extra space for family members during procedures is non-standard. "Family presence during trauma care can improve outcomes," I said without thinking. "Studies show that when appropriate, having loved ones present reduces anxiety and increases compliance with follow-up care." She paused at her office door, really looking at me for the first time. "That's exactly what I told them. Please come in." Her office was organized chaos blueprints competing with medical journals for desk space. Photos on the bookshelf showed her with 2 teenagers, no wedding ring on her finger. Another single mother perhaps building something from determination and expertise. "Tell me," she said, settling into her chair, "why does an experienced ER nurse with excellent recommendations want to leave everything behind for a construction site and a promise?" I'd prepared a diplomatic answer about seeking new challenges and professional growth. Instead, I heard myself saying, "Because I'm $47,000 and a moldy basement away from showing my children that sometimes the biggest risk is staying where you are." Her eyebrows rose. "That's not the answer I expected." "I can give you the polished version if you prefer," I offered. "But if we're going to potentially work together for years, maybe honesty is better. I'm a single mother with 2 kids. My support system just collapsed because I refused to accept my children being treated as second-class citizens in their own home. I have saving skills and determination, but what I need is opportunity. This job isn't just a career move for me, it's a chance to build something better for my family." She leaned back, studying me. "The position requires long hours initially, setting up protocols, hiring staff, establishing relationships with the community. It won't be easy. With respect, Dr. Coleman, I've been working night shifts in a level 1 trauma center, while single-parenting 2 kids and saving every penny I could hide. I don't know what easy looks like anymore." "Fair point," she conceded. "Tell me about your experience with protocol development." We spent the next hour discussing the technical aspects of the job, my ideas for triage improvement, my experience training, new nurses, my certifications, in everything from pediatric advanced life support to disaster management. She asked pointed questions about handling difficult staff, managing budgets, dealing with community relations. I answered each one honestly, drawing from 8 years of experience and the crash course in crisis management my personal life had become. "One more question," she said finally. "This is a big move for children. How do you know they'll adapt?" I thought about Emma reading to Noah when he was scared about how they'd packed their favorite things without complaint about the resilience they'd already shown. "My daughter asked me yesterday if she could have a purple room in our new house," I said. "She didn't ask if we'd have a house. She didn't worry about whether we'd make it. She just wanted to know about the color. Kids adapt when they feel safe and loved. My job is to provide that. This position would let me do it better." Dr. Coleman smiled, the kind that transformed her professional face into something warmer. "I have one more meeting after this, but I want to be transparent. You're exactly what we're looking for. Someone who understands that emergency medicine isn't just about medical excellence, but about building a place where the community feels cared for." My heart was pounding so hard I was sure she could hear it. "Does that mean—" I can't make an official offer until I complete the last interview, she said carefully. But I can tell you that if you're willing to start in 2 weeks, the signing bonus can be processed immediately upon acceptance. Would that timeline work for you? 2 weeks. 2 weeks to find housing move, enroll the kids in school, completely restart our lives. Yes, I said, without hesitation. That would work perfectly. She stood extending her hand. I'll be in touch within 48 hours. In the meantime, let me walk you out and show you something. We left through a different door, emerging onto what would eventually be the emergency department. Workers were installing framework, the skeleton of something important taking shape. She led me to where large windows were being fitted. This will be the pediatric waiting area, she explained. Natural light space for siblings to play direct sight lines to the triage desk so parents never feel forgotten. And over here, she guided me around construction equipment, the family consultation rooms, private spaces for difficult conversations but with windows to gardens, because sometimes the worst news needs to come with a view of something growing. I stood there in the midst of construction chaos, seeing her vision, a place where medicine met humanity, where families mattered as much as metrics, where a nurse could build a career while building a life. It's perfect, I said quietly. It will be, she agreed, with the right team. We walked back to the parking area, dodging workers and equipment. At my car, she paused. Cynthia, that basement you mentioned, don't let anyone convince you that was acceptable. Not for you, not for your children. Sometimes the people who should protect us are the ones we need protection from. It takes courage to see that and act on it. I drove away from that interview knowing something had fundamentally shifted. Whether I got the job or not, I'd spoken my truth to someone who understood it. I'd stood in the bones of something being built and seen possibility instead of risk. My phone rang as I reached the highway. Angela's name flashed on the screen. How did it go? She asked before I could even say hello. I think it went really well. The director basically said I'm what they're looking for. She showed me around Angela. It's going to be amazing. The whole design is about treating families, not just patients. I knew it, she squealed. I told you, when do you find out? Within 48 hours. She said if I get it, I could start in 2 weeks with the signing bonus processed immediately. Oh, honey. Angela's voice softened. This is really happening. You're really doing this. I'm terrified. I admitted, finally letting the fear speak. What if I'm making a huge mistake? What if I'm dragging my kids away from everything familiar for nothing? First of all, familiar isn't always good. Second, it's not for nothing. It's for everything. It's for their future, for your sanity, for the chance to build something that's yours. And third, her voice grew fierce. You're Cynthia Martinez. You've survived Brad's betrayal, your parents' favoritism, and night shift during a pandemic. A new city should be scared of you, not the other way around. I laughed, surprising myself. When did you get so wise? Probably around the time I watched my best friend save enough money to secure her kid's future, while everyone thought she was barely surviving. You've been preparing for this moment for 3 years, Cyn. You just didn't know it until now. As I drove back toward her apartment, I let myself imagine it. Not just the job or the house, but the life. Saturday mornings without walking on eggshells. Dinner conversations that didn't revolve around Marcus's achievements. Bedrooms where my children could breathe easily and dream freely. My phone buzzed with a text at a red light. From my mother. Your father is very upset. This behavior is childish and destructive. Think about what you're teaching your children. I didn't respond. I was thinking about what I was teaching them. That they mattered. That love shouldn't come with conditions. That sometimes starting over wasn't giving up but growing up. The light turned green and I drove toward my children, toward Angela's acceptance, toward possibilities that seemed suddenly brilliantly real. Through the windshield, the afternoon sun broke through clouds, illuminating the road ahead. It looked like hope. It looked like freedom. It looked like the beginning of everything. The call came 36 hours later while I was helping Emma with homework at Angela's kitchen table. Dr. Coleman's name on my phone screen made my hand shake as I answered. "Cynthia, I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time." "Not at all." I managed, gesturing for Emma to give me a moment. I stepped onto Angela's small balcony, closing the door behind me. "I'll keep this brief because I know waiting is agony," she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "The position is yours if you want it. 95,000 annually full benefits starting day one and the 10,000 signing bonus we discussed." I gripped the balcony railing, afraid my knees might give out. I want it. Yes, absolutely yes. "Wonderful, I'm emailing the official offer now. HR will be in touch about paperwork, and the signing bonus should be in your account within 3 business days of returning the signed documents. Can you start January 15th? January 15th, less than 2 weeks away. I'll be there." After we hung up, I stood on that balcony in the cold January air, letting it sink in. Inside, I could see my children through the glass door. Noah was drawing at the table while Emma read both of them, adapting to yet another temporary space, with a resilience that broke and amazed me in equal measure. "Mommy." Emma had noticed me and opened the door. "Are you okay? You're crying." Happy tears again. I told her, pulling both kids into a hug as Noah joined us. "Remember that job I interviewed for? I got it. We're moving to Millbrook." "Is that far?" Noah asked, worry creeping into his voice. "About 2 hours from here," I said honestly. "New schools, new house, new everything. But we'll be together, and that's what matters." Emma chewed her lip, processing. "Will we have our own rooms?" "That's the plan," I promised. "Want to help me look for houses?" That evening, after Angela came home and we'd celebrated with ice cream, I sat with my laptop while the kids slept. The signing bonus would hit my account soon, giving me enough for a down payment. But first, I needed to find something we could afford. I'd already researched Millbrook extensively. Good schools, low crime rates, actual sidewalks where kids could ride bikes. The hospital was on the eastern edge of town, so I focused my search there, wanting a short commute. Most houses were out of reach, even with my increased salary. But then I found it. A colonial on Maple Street listed as motivated sellers, price reduced. The photos showed dated wallpaper and overgrown landscaping, but the bones were good. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, a real backyard with mature trees. I called the listing agent first thing the next morning. "The Maple Street property." "Oh yes, the Hendersons' place. They're divorcing, need a quick sale. Very motivated. When would you like to see it?" "I'm driving up from the city. Could we do this afternoon?" "Absolutely. Fair warning, it needs some cosmetic work, but the structure is sound. New roof 3 years ago, furnace replaced last winter." "I'm a single mother with 2 kids," I said bluntly. "I need safe and functional more than pretty." "Then this might be perfect," she said warmly. "The previous owners raised 4 children there. It's a family home waiting for another family." I piled the kids into the car after lunch, turning the house hunting into an adventure. They peppered me with questions during the drive, their excitement infectious. Would there be a yard for a dog? Could they paint their rooms any color? Would there be kids their age nearby? "I don't know," I answered honestly, "but we'll figure it out together." The GPS led us through Millbrook's downtown, past the library and coffee shops, the small park with a gazebo, the school where yellow buses were lined up for afternoon dismissal. It felt like a movie set of small-town America, almost too perfect to be real. Then we turned onto Maple Street and my breath caught. Tree-lined and quiet, with sidewalks where kids had drawn hopscotch squares in chalk. Houses with front porches and mailboxes at the curb, each one different but all clearly homes rather than just houses. "There it is," I said, pulling up to number 47. The house needed work that was obvious. The yellow paint was fading, the shutters hung slightly crooked, and the front garden was more weeds than flowers. But there was a wraparound porch with a swing dormers that suggested cozy bedrooms and a chimney that promised a real fireplace. "It looks like a storybook house," Emma breathed. The realtor, a woman named Diane with silver hair and comfortable shoes, met us at the door. "Welcome, you must be Cynthia. and these must be the lucky kids who get to pick their bedrooms. She led us through, and I tried to see past the dated decor to the possibilities. The living room had hardwood floors under the carpet visible at the edges. The kitchen needed updating but had good bones and a window overlooking the backyard. The formal dining room could be homework central. "Can we see upstairs?" Noah asked already, halfway up the staircase. "Of course, that's where the magic is," Diane said. 4 bedrooms just as advertised. The master was small but had its own bathroom and a view of the backyard. The other 3 bedrooms were various sizes each with character. Emma immediately claimed the one with built-in bookshelves and a window seat. Noah wanted the one with 2 windows and a closet he declared perfect for a secret hideout. "And this," Diane said, opening the last door, "could be your home office or a guest room or whatever you need it to be." Whatever we needed it to be. After years of making do with whatever space was grudgingly given the freedom to choose, felt almost overwhelming. "Mommy, look," Noah called from his chosen room. "There's a tree house." We crowded at the window, and sure enough, built into the massive oak in the backyard was a tree house. Nothing fancy, just a platform with walls and a roof, but Noah's face lit up like Christmas morning. "The Henderson kids built it with their dad," Diane explained. "It's sturdy. He was a contractor, knew what he was doing." We explored the backyard, the kids running ahead to investigate the treehouse, while Diane and I talked numbers. The asking price was $280,000, but she confirmed they'd accept $250,000 for a cash offer with quick closing. "The divorce is contentious," she said delicately. "They want this done. If you can close by the end of January, I think we can make this work." I did the math in my head. With the signing bonus and my savings, I could put down 20% and still have money for moving and emergencies. The mortgage payment would be less than what I'd pay for a 2-bedroom apartment in the city. "I want to make an offer," I heard myself say. "Mommy really—" Emma had been listening, her eyes wide. "This could be our house." "If everything works out," I said carefully, but I was already seeing it. Emma's purple room with her books on those built-in shelves, Noah breathing easily in clean air, family dinners at a table we owned in a kitchen where no one would tell us we were too loud or in the way. Diane efficiently pulled up the offer paperwork on her tablet. "I'll present this today. Given their situation, you'll likely have an answer by tomorrow." The drive back to the city felt different. The kids chattered nonstop about their rooms, the treehouse, the swing on the porch. They were already making plans, staking claims, building dreams. "Can we get a dog?" Noah asked for the 3rd time. "Maybe," I said, which was more than I'd ever been able to promise before. "Let's get moved in first." That evening, while the kids excitedly told Angela about their house, I submitted the formal acceptance for the job and watched my bank account anxiously for the signing bonus. Everything was moving so fast, but maybe that was better. No time for second-guessing, no chance for my parents to undermine my confidence. My phone rang as I was getting the kids ready for bed. Diane's number. "Cynthia, they accepted your offer. Congratulations, you're buying a house." I sank onto the edge of the bathtub, the phone pressed to my ear as Diane explained next steps. Inspection paperwork, closing date of January 30th. The kids appeared in the doorway, toothbrushes in hand, watching my face. "We got it," I told them when I hung up. "We got the house." The celebration that followed involved jumping on beds and happy tears and promises about paint colors and maybe dogs. Angela appeared with champagne for the adults and sparkling cider for the kids, and we toasted on her tiny balcony to new beginnings and houses with tree houses. Later, after the kids were asleep, I sat in the dark living room and let myself feel the magnitude of what was happening. In 2 weeks, I'd gone from accepting a moldy basement for my children to buying them a house with a tree house. From begging for scraps of respect to being offered a leadership position. From $47,000 in savings to a down payment on a future. My phone lit up with a text from my mother. "I heard you're staying with Angela. This is ridiculous. Come home and stop this nonsense." I deleted it without responding. Home wasn't where you paid rent to be tolerated. Home was where your children could paint their rooms purple and breathe easy and climb trees without apologizing for existing. Home was a colonial on Maple Street with crooked shutters and endless possibilities. Home was what you built, not what you begged for. And we were finally going home. 3 days into packing our life into boxes at Angela's apartment, my phone rang with my father's ringtone. I almost didn't answer, but something made me swipe accept. "Cynthia," he said, his voice strained. "We have a situation. Marcus and Jessica arrived today." "That's 3 weeks early," I said, carefully wrapping Emma's collection of ceramic animals. "I know. There were complications with their living situation in Manhattan. They need our support now more than ever." Complications? In our family's vocabulary, that usually meant Marcus had created a mess someone else needed to clean up. "Well, good thing you cleared out the entire second floor for them." "About that?" My father hesitated. "We still have your belongings in the rooms. Could you come get them? Jessica is very particular about space, and she's already quite upset about various things." "Various things?" I couldn't help but ask. "The neighborhood, the house, the noise level of the construction next door. You know how sensitive pregnant women can be." I bit back a laugh. When I was pregnant with Emma, I'd worked until the day I went into labor dealing with trauma patients and 12-hour shifts. But sure, Jessica was sensitive. "I'll come by tomorrow afternoon," I said. "I'll bring a truck." "That's not necessary," he said quickly. "Surely you're not taking everything—" "Dad, I bought a house." "Yes, I'm taking everything that belongs to us." Silence, then, "You bought a house, how—" "With money. The bank was surprisingly willing to work with someone who pays their bills and has stable employment. Shocking, I know." "Cynthia, this antagonism isn't like you. Neither is standing up for myself, apparently. But here we are." I arrived the next day with a rental truck and Miguel Angela's friend who'd offered to help. The house looked different somehow, as if Marcus's presence had already shifted its axis. A Mercedes sat in the driveway where my Honda used to park. The front door was open and I could hear voices inside. "Just leave it all." Jessica's voice carried clearly. "We'll have it hauled away. I can't believe they were letting children put artwork on these walls. It's going to take 3 coats of paint to cover." I walked in to find her directing my mother and father like staff, pointing at Emma's art projects still hanging in the hallway. Marcus lounged on the couch, scrolling through his phone, while my parents scurried to follow Jessica's commands. "Oh," Jessica said when she saw me, "you're here." "To get our belongings," I said evenly, "the ones that need to be hauled away." My mother had the grace to look embarrassed. "Jessica just meant—" "I know what she meant," I interrupted. "Miguel, let's start upstairs." Emma's room was already being transformed. Her fairy lights had been taken down, her wall decals removed, leaving sad little marks on the paint. Her furniture was pushed to the center of the room, and Jessica's prenatal yoga equipment was already set up by the window. "Wow," Miguel said quietly. "They didn't waste any time erasing your kids." "No," I agreed, starting to pack Emma's books. "They certainly didn't." We worked efficiently, but I could hear the drama unfolding downstairs. Jessica complaining about the water pressure, the kitchen layout, the neighbor's dog barking. Marcus occasionally chiming in with soothing noises that did nothing to stop her litany of grievances. When we moved to Noah's room, I found Marcus there setting up what looked like a home office. "Hey, Sin," he said, not looking up from his laptop. "Crazy how fast things change, huh?" "Crazy," I agreed, dismantling Noah's bed frame. "Thought you'd be at work on a Thursday." He shifted uncomfortably. "Working from home today. You know how it is." "Actually, I don't. Hospital nurses have to show up in person. Sick people are funny that way." "Still bitter about the career thing?" He shook his head. "You could have done more, Sin. I told you to get your master's move into administration." "I like taking care of people," I said simply. "Not everyone measures success by their office size." "No," he agreed, glancing around the small room. "Some people measure it by their basement apartment." Miguel stepped forward, but I put a hand on his arm. "How's the new house construction going?" I asked instead. Great should be done by summer. It's going to be incredible. 6,000 square feet, chef's kitchen, home theater. Wow, that must be expensive. You know me? He said with that easy smile. I always land on my feet. The market's been very good to me. From downstairs, Jessica's voice rose again. This is completely unacceptable. The baby's room cannot be next to a bathroom. The noise will disturb their sleep patterns. Marcus sighed and stood. I should go deal with that. Pregnant women, you know. I know, I said. I was one. Twice. Still managed not to berate anyone about bathroom placement. He left without responding, and Miguel whistled low. That guy's got some serious issues. Always has, I said, wrapping Noah's telescope carefully. He just hides it better than most. We were loading boxes when I overheard something that stopped me cold. Marcus was on the back porch phone pressed to his ear, speaking in the rapid-fire way he did when stressed. I understand the position you're in, but I need more time. The severance is gone, yes, but I have family resources. No, I haven't told them yet, because my wife is pregnant and thinks we're building a dream house. 3 months. Give me 3 months to figure this out. Miguel and I exchanged glances. Marcus, the golden boy who always landed on his feet, was drowning and too proud to admit it. Should we say something? Miguel whispered. To who? I whispered back. My parents who won't hear it, or Jessica who's living in a fantasy? We continued loading in silence, but the overheard conversation reframed everything. The early arrival, the commandeering of space, the desperate maintenance of appearances. Classic Marcus creating a house of cards and expecting others to keep it standing. My father appeared as we loaded the last boxes. Is this really necessary, taking everything? It's our stuff, Dad. But the house, it looks so empty now. I looked at him. Really looked. He seemed older, grayer, diminished somehow. It looked empty when my kids' belongings were thrown in the basement, too. You just didn't notice then. Marcus needs our help, he said quietly. Marcus needs more help than you can give, I replied, remembering the phone call. But that's not my problem anymore. Jessica appeared in the doorway, her hand on her supposedly pregnant belly. Are they finished? The smell of cardboard is making me nauseous. We're leaving, I assured her. Enjoy the space. Oh, we will, she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. It's so nice to be around family who understands the importance of providing properly for children. Miguel started toward her, but I grabbed his arm again. She's not worth it, I murmured. Let's go. As we drove away, the truck loaded with the remnants of our life in that house, I felt lighter somehow. Through the side mirror, I saw my father standing in the driveway looking lost. Behind him, Marcus and Jessica were already rearranging the front porch furniture, claiming every inch of space we'd vacated. You okay? Miguel asked. You know what I actually am. And I meant it. They're about to learn what happens when the son who can do no wrong finally has to face reality, and I won't be there to watch it implode. That phone call, Miguel said. He's in real trouble, isn't he? Probably. But he's got Jessica's yoga mat and my parents' blind faith. I'm sure that'll pay the bills. We both knew it wouldn't. We both knew this was the beginning of an unraveling that had been years in the making. But for the first time in my life, it wasn't my mess to clean up. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma. Did you get my books? I need them for my new purple room. I smiled, texting back, every single one, including the Fairy Princess series Noah pretends he doesn't like. Mom, don't tell him I know. The truck rumbled toward our future, loaded with books and toys and memories worth keeping. Behind us, my parents' house settled into its new reality, with Jessica's complaints echoing through rooms that had once heard children's laughter, and Marcus's desperate phone calls revealing the golden boy was made of fool's gold after all. Let them figure it out. I had a house to move into, a job to start, and 2 children who deserved every ounce of energy I'd wasted, trying to earn love from people who didn't have it to give. The best revenge, I decided, was not needing revenge at all. Just success, happiness, and a purple room for a little girl who knew she was loved exactly as she was. The moving truck was scheduled for Saturday morning. I'd spent the week in a whirlwind of activity that left me exhausted but exhilarated. Every box packed felt like progress. Every logistical detail handled was a step toward freedom. Angela had taken time off work to help, and together we'd developed a system. I worked nights at the hospital, came home to sleep a few hours, then packed while the kids were at school. The signing bonus had hit my account, followed immediately by payments for deposits, moving costs, and the dozen other expenses that came with completely relocating your life. "You need to sleep," Angela said Thursday evening, finding me surrounded by boxes and paperwork at her kitchen table. "I need to finish enrolling them in school," I countered, squinting at online forms, "and figure out utility transfers and change our address with approximately 700 different places." "Sin." She placed a hand over mine, stilling my frantic typing. "You're running on fumes. The kids need you functional, not perfect." She was right, but stopping felt dangerous. If I stopped, I might think too hard about what I was doing, might second guess uprooting my children, leaving my job, starting over in a place where we knew nobody. "I got an email from my mother," I said instead of acknowledging her point. Subject line, "Think of the children." "Did you read it?" Deleted it. If she wanted to think of the children, she shouldn't have put them in a basement. My phone rang, showing my lawyer's number. I'd hired him 2 days ago, paranoid that my parents might try something to stop me from leaving. Better paranoid than unprepared. "Ms. Martinez, I've reviewed the documentation you sent. Your parents have no legal standing to challenge your relocation or seek custody. You're the sole legal guardian with full decision-making authority." Even though we've been living with them doesn't grant them rights. You've paid rent, maintained your own finances, and made all parenting decisions. Legally, you're clear. However, he paused. "I would document everything. Keep records of the housing situation, any texts or emails about the children, especially anything that shows the inadequate conditions they wanted to place your children in." After I hung up, Angela whistled. "You really think they'd try something?" 6 months ago, I'd have said no. Now, I shrugged. I don't know them anymore. Maybe I never did. Friday was my last shift at Riverside General. I'd given minimal notice, but my supervisor understood. "Life happens," she'd said, "and that director in Millbrook is lucky to get you. Don't forget us when you're running the place." I worked with a focus that came from knowing it was the end. Every patient got my best, every colleague got a proper goodbye. I'd spent 8 years in these halls, learned to save lives, and lost some despite my best efforts. These walls had heard my tears. After the divorce, witnessed my determination to keep going, held space for me to become who I was. "We'll miss you," Dr. Patterson said during a quiet moment. "You're one of the good ones, Martinez. Always have been." "Just trying to do right by my kids," I said. "That's what makes you good," he replied. "Too many people forget that's what it's all about." I thought about Marcus then building his house of cards on a foundation of lies, about my parents choosing the illusion of success over the reality of love, about choices and priorities and what really mattered when everything else fell away. My shift ended at 7 a.m. Saturday. I drove home through awakening streets knowing it was the last time I'd make this commute. The kids were awake when I arrived, bouncing with excitement despite the early hour. "Is today really moving day?" Noah asked for the 100th time. "Today's really moving day," I confirmed, pulling them both into a hug that smelled of toothpaste and hope. The moving crew arrived at 8 sharp. Angela had arranged everything, even recruiting Miguel and 2 other friends from the hospital to help. As they loaded our boxes into the truck, I felt the weight of the moment settling on my shoulders. "Second thoughts?" Angela asked, appearing with coffee. "No," I said honestly. "Just big thoughts. 3 years ago, I was sleeping on your couch crying because I couldn't afford dinner and daycare. Now I'm moving my kids into a 4-bedroom house where they each get their own room." "You did that," she said firmly. "Not luck, not anyone else. You." The kids were helping in their own way, carefully carrying their special possessions to the truck. Emma had her journal clutched tight, the one where she wrote her stories. Noah had his telescope already planning where to set it up in his new room. As we did final checks of the apartment, my phone rang. My father. "I know you're leaving today," he said without preamble. "Your mother doesn't know I'm calling." "Okay," I said, not sure where this was going. "I wanted to wish you well, and to tell you that when Marcus's situation falls apart, because we both know it will, don't let your mother blame you for not warning us." I sank onto Angela's couch, stunned. "You know, I'm old Cynthia, not stupid. His stories don't add up. Jessica's timeline doesn't make sense. The desperation is obvious if you're willing to see it. But your mother," he sighed. "She's invested too much in the idea of him to see the reality." "Then why enable it?" "Because I'm a coward," he said simply. "It's easier to pretend than to face her disappointment. You're braver than I ever was." "I'm not brave, Dad. I'm just tired of pretending my children don't matter as much as Marcus's promises." "They matter," he said quietly. "I should have said that before. Should have done a lot of things before. I'm sorry." It was the first apology I'd gotten, and it hit harder than I expected. "Thank you for saying that." "Take care of yourself and those babies," he said. "Maybe when the dust settles." "Maybe," I said, though we both knew too much had been broken. After we hung up, I sat there for a moment processing. My father knew, had known, and chosen the comfortable lie over the uncomfortable truth. It was somehow worse than blind favoritism. "You ready?" Angela asked gently. "As ready as I'll ever be." I stood squaring my shoulders. "Let's go build something better." The truck was loaded, the kids buckled into my car, our caravan ready to head north. As we pulled away from Angela's apartment building, Emma reached forward from the back seat to squeeze my shoulder. "It's okay to be sad, Mom," she said with wisdom beyond her years, "even when you're going somewhere better." "When did you get so smart?" I asked, blinking back tears. "When you showed me how," she replied simply. The drive to Millbrook felt both endless and too quick. 2 hours of highway between our old life and new one. The kids played travel games, pointed out landmarks, created stories about the people in passing cars. Normal kid things that felt like miracles after weeks of upheaval. As we took the exit for Millbrook, Noah pressed his face to the window. "Is that our hospital?" He pointed to the construction site. "That's where I'll be working," I confirmed. "Building something new, just like us." "Cool," he breathed, and I loved him for finding wonder in construction chaos. We drove through downtown past the schools they'd attend, the library, we'd get cards for the park where they'd play. Each street was a possibility, each corner a future memory waiting to be made. Then we turned onto Maple Street, and there it was. Our house, not perfect, not fancy, but ours. The moving truck was already there, Miguel directing the unloading with military precision. The kids exploded from the car, racing to the front door, bouncing with impatience as I fumbled for the keys. "Welcome home," I whispered as the lock turned. They burst inside like water through a dam, their footsteps echoing on hardwood floors, their voices filling empty rooms with life and purpose. "My purple room," Emma shouted from upstairs. "The treehouse," Noah called from the back door. I stood in the entrance of our house boxes piling up around me, my children's joy bouncing off walls that would learn their laughter, and felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Peace, purpose, possibility. All starting now in a colonial on Maple Street, where love would be unconditional and dreams would have room to grow. We'd been in the house for 5 days, still navigating around boxes and discovering which light switches controlled what, when Jessica started her campaign of destruction from afar. It began with a text to my mother that somehow found its way to me through the family grapevine. My cousin Linda forwarded it with a simple, "Thought you should see this." The message read, "Patricia, I'm concerned about the sugar content in the birthday cake I saw photos of. When our twins arrive, we'll need to ensure they're not exposed to such unhealthy influences from their cousins. Perhaps it's best if gatherings are separate until Cynthia learns proper nutrition." The birthday cake in question was Emma's from her small celebration last month. the one my mother had criticized for being store-bought because I'd worked a double shift the day before, the one Jessica hadn't attended but apparently felt qualified to judge. Unbelievable, I muttered, unpacking kitchen boxes with perhaps more force than necessary. "What's wrong, Mom?" Emma asked from where she was organizing her books on her built-in shelves. "Nothing important, sweetheart, just people with too much time on their hands." But it wasn't nothing. It was the beginning of a pattern that would push me to my breaking point. The next day, while I was at the hospital for orientation, Angela called. "Your mom just posted on Facebook. You need to see this." I pulled up the post during my lunch break. There was a photo of Marcus and Jessica in my old living room. Jessica posed artfully with her hand on her belly. The caption read, "So blessed to have our successful son home while they prepare for twins. The house feels complete again. Some children bring joy, others bring lessons, but we love them all in their own ways." The comments were already filling with family members asking what she meant. My aunt had written, "Where are Cynthia and the kids?" My mother's response, "Making their own choices. Some people prefer struggle to family support." I closed the app, my hands shaking with rage. Emma and Noah were lessons. We preferred struggle. That evening, as I helped Noah set up his telescope in his new room, he asked quietly, "Mom, why did Grandma say I was too loud? I tried to be quiet." "When did she say that, baby?" "When Jessica was visiting at Thanksgiving. She said Jessica needed peace and I was too loud existing." Too loud existing. My 8-year-old son had been told his very existence was too much. "You know what?" I said, pulling him close. "You exist as loudly as you want in this house. Laugh, sing, play. This is your home, and homes are supposed to be filled with life." He smiled, but I could see the hurt lingering. Another wound courtesy of grandparents who measured love in achievement and net worth. Thursday brought the cake incident. Jessica, now fully ensconced in my parents' home, had thrown out the organic birthday cake my mother had bought for my father because it wasn't from her approved bakery. She said it probably had GMOs. My father told me during a rare phone call. Your mother was upset but didn't want to stress Jessica in her condition. Her condition of what terminal entitlement? He sighed. Cynthia. No, Dad. She's living rent-free, taking over the entire house, dictating what food can exist in the kitchen, and Mom's protecting her feelings. When did anyone protect Emma's feelings or Noah's? It's different, he said weakly. You're right, it is. My children actually exist. The breaking point came Friday evening. I'd taken the kids to the local diner for dinner, a celebration of surviving our first week. Emma was telling me about her new teacher when my phone rang. My mother. I need you to speak to your children about their behavior, she began without greeting. What behavior? Linda told me Emma said they have their own rooms now. She's clearly bragging, trying to make Marcus and Jessica feel bad about their temporary situation. I looked at Emma, who was drawing smiley faces in her mashed potatoes, blissfully unaware she'd committed the crime of being happy about her purple room. Are you seriously calling to tell me my daughter can't be happy about her bedroom? She needs to be considerate of others' feelings. Marcus and Jessica are under tremendous stress with the twins coming and the house construction. The twins that don't exist yet, in the house that's supposedly being built with money he doesn't have. Silence. Then, what's that supposed to mean? Nothing, I said, suddenly exhausted. Absolutely nothing. You know what, Mom? You're right. I'll tell Emma to be ashamed of her happiness. I'll tell Noah to apologize for existing too loudly. Better yet, I'll tell them that their joy is less important than the feelings of people who threw their belongings in a basement. You're being dramatic. I'm being done, I corrected. We're building a life here, a good one. If you can't be happy for us, then at least have the decency to leave us alone. After everything we've done for you, you charged me rent while hoarding empty houses. You put my asthmatic son in a moldy basement. You told me I should be grateful for scraps while promising Marcus a feast. So yes, after everything you've done, I'm choosing to protect my children from more of it. I hung up and found both kids watching me with wide eyes. "Are we in trouble?" Noah asked in a small voice. "No, baby, we're free." That night, after the kids were asleep in their own rooms, their beautiful, clean, mold-free rooms, I sat on my new front porch despite the January cold. The street was quiet porch lights creating pools of warmth in the darkness. Somewhere a dog barked. Normal neighborhood sounds that felt like a symphony after years of walking on eggshells. My phone buzzed. Angela had sent a photo from my parents' Facebook. Marcus and Jessica posing with my parents, all smiles. The caption, "Family is everything. So grateful for our children who value what matters." I studied the photo looking for what I'd missed all these years. My mother's smile that never quite reached her eyes when looking at pictures of Emma and Noah. My father's proud posture next to Marcus versus his apologetic slouch around me. Jessica's possessive hand on a belly that should be showing by now but wasn't. Marcus's designer clothes that screamed of desperation to maintain an image. Then I deleted the thread and blocked my mother's number. Family was everything. She was right about that. But family was Emma reading stories to Noah when he was scared. Family was Angela opening her home without question. Family was Miguel spending his Saturday helping us move. Family was Dr. Coleman taking a chance on a desperate single mother. Family was the nurse who'd covered my shift when Noah was sick, and the teacher who'd already learned Emma loved to write. Family was chosen as much as born, and I was choosing the people who saw my children as blessings, not burdens. A text came through from an unknown number. "Jessica, your mother is very hurt. This selfishness will damage your children. When our twins see how you treat family, they'll understand why we keep our distance." I almost laughed. She was threatening me with the distance I craved, warning me about judgment from children who might not exist, all while living in a house my parents maintained through money that should have been shared. I typed back a single response. "My children know exactly how I treat family. That's why they sleep peacefully in their own rooms instead of crying in a basement. Enjoy the house. You'll need the space when the house of cards falls." Then I blocked her too. Inside the house was quiet but not empty. It breathed with the peaceful sleep of children who felt safe. Tomorrow, Noah had a soccer tryout at the community center. Emma wanted to check out the library. I had meetings at the hospital to review protocols. Life to be lived, futures to be built, joy to be claimed without apology. My parents could keep their golden child and his tarnished promises. They could believe whatever lies made their choices bearable. They could post about family values while valuing only the family that fed their pride. We had something better here on Maple Street. We had truth and love without conditions and rooms where children could exist as loudly as their hearts desired. The porch light attracted moths dancing in circles around the bright promise of warmth. I watched them for a moment, understanding their draw to something that might burn them, then went inside to my own warmth, safer, sustainable, and finally truly ours. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of crisp January sunshine that made everything feel possible. I'd been awake since 5 double checking lists and trying to calm the butterflies in my stomach. Today was the day we officially left everything behind. The moving truck was scheduled for 7 a.m., and by 6:30, Angela's apartment was buzzing with activity. Miguel arrived with coffee and donuts, followed by 2 other friends from the hospital who'd volunteered to help. The kids were dressed and ready, their excitement palpable. "Mom, I put labels on all my boxes," Emma announced proudly, "so the movers know exactly where everything goes in our new house." Our house. The word still felt surreal. The doorbell rang at 7 sharp. 3 movers in matching shirts introduced themselves professionally, and we began the choreographed dance of emptying Angela's guest room and living room of our belongings. "This going to the basement or upstairs?" one mover asked, holding a box labeled "Kids' Books." "Second floor," I said firmly. "Emma's room, the one with the built-in bookshelves." He nodded and made a note. Such a simple exchange, but it felt monumental. My children's belongings were going to bedrooms, real bedrooms chosen and claimed and theirs. As boxes disappeared into the truck, my phone rang. My mother. I'd unblocked her number that morning, knowing there might be logistics to handle. I stepped onto Angela's balcony to answer. "The movers are here," she said without preamble, "taking the rest of your things." "My things are already loaded," I said, confused. "These are items from the garage and attic, things we've stored for you over the years. I thought you'd want them gone too." The coldness in her voice could have frosted the windows, but beneath it, I heard something else. Hurt regret. It was hard to tell. "What kind of things?" I asked carefully. "Your grandmother's china. Your wedding album, though I don't know why you'd want that. Baby clothes I saved. Christmas ornaments from when you were little. Various memorabilia." Things I'd forgotten existed tucked away in the attic of my childhood, memory artifacts from before everything got complicated, before love became conditional. "I'll send someone for them," I said. "Thank you for not throwing them away." Silence stretched between us. Then quietly she said, "I wouldn't throw away your memories, Cynthia. Whatever you think of me, I'm still your mother." "Being my mother means being my children's grandmother," I replied. "And grandmothers don't put grandchildren in basements." It was temporary. Love shouldn't be temporary. Respect shouldn't be temporary. My children deserve better than temporary. "And you think you can give them better alone in a strange city?" "Yes," I said simply, "because I see them. Really see them. Not as inconveniences or disappointments or obstacles to someone else's happiness. I see Emma's brilliance and Noah's courage. I see their worth that has nothing to do with their father's income or their mother's marriage status." Another silence. Then, "The boxes will be on the front porch. The movers can get them after you leave." She hung up without goodbye, and I stood there for a moment looking out over the city that had been my home for 32 years. Somewhere in this sprawl of buildings and dreams, my parents were preparing my brother's temporary throne while boxing up my permanent memories. The irony wasn't lost on me. Back inside, the apartment was nearly empty. Angela was directing traffic with the efficiency of someone used to managing chaos, while my kids helped by carrying their personal backpacks to the car. "You okay?" Angela asked, noting my expression. "My mother's putting my grandmother's china on the porch for pickup," I said, "along with other things from my childhood. Want me to get them? I can drive over after you leave." I hugged her fiercely. "What would I do without you?" "Lucky for you, you'll never have to find out. Now let's get you moved before I start ugly crying." The truck was loaded by 8:30, our entire life in boxes ready to be transplanted 2 hours north. The kids did a final walkthrough of the apartment, making sure nothing was forgotten. "Thank you for letting us stay here," Emma told Angela solemnly. "You saved us." Angela knelt down to Emma's level. "No, sweetheart, your mom saved you. I just had a spare room and a friend who needed it." As we prepared to leave, Miguel pulled me aside. "I put something extra in the truck. Toolkit, basic supplies, some emergency stuff. New house, you'll need it." "Miguel, you didn't have to." "Family helps family," he said firmly. "Real family. Not the DNA kind, but the kind that shows up." The convoy was ready, my Honda leading the moving truck behind Angela and Miguel following to help unload. As I started the engine, Noah piped up from the back seat. "Mom, what if the new house doesn't feel like home?" I adjusted the rearview mirror to meet his eyes. "Home isn't about the house, baby. It's about who's in it. And as long as we're together, anywhere can be home." "Even a basement?" Emma asked quietly. "We're never living in anyone's basement again," I promised. "From now on, we live in spaces where we're celebrated, not just tolerated." As we pulled away from Angela's building, I caught one last glimpse of the city skyline. Somewhere in that maze of glass and concrete, my parents were probably having breakfast discussing their golden son's needs. Jessica was likely complaining about something while Marcus scrambled to maintain his facade. But that wasn't my circus anymore. Those weren't my monkeys. My circus was in this car singing along to the radio as we headed north. My monkeys were debating whether the treehouse should be a pirate ship or a space station. My show was about to open in a new venue, and I was both ringmaster and audience performer and stage crew. The highway stretched ahead, sunlight painting the asphalt gold. Behind us, a truck carried our past. Ahead waited our future. And in this moment, suspended between what was and what could be, I felt the kind of hope that comes from finally choosing yourself. "Hey, Mom," Noah said as the city gave way to suburbs. "Yeah, buddy. Can we get a dog now?" I laughed, really laughed for the first time in weeks. "Let's get unpacked first. But yeah, maybe we can get a dog." "A big one," Emma added hopefully. "One that can climb the treehouse." "We'll see," I said, but I was already imagining it. A dog in the yard, muddy paw prints on the floor, someone else for my kids to love who would love them back unconditionally. Why not? We were already doing impossible things. We'd left behind blood for chosen family, traded a basement for bedrooms, exchanged conditional love for unconditional hope. A dog seemed like a small miracle compared to all that. The moving truck followed faithfully as we merged onto the highway that would take us home. Not to a house where we paid rent on our unworthiness, but to a place where every room was yes and every dream had space to grow. 2 hours to Millbrook, 2 hours to New, 2 hours to begin becoming who we were always meant to be before other people's opinions convinced us to be less. I pressed the accelerator, eager to close the distance between who we'd been and who we could become. In the back seat, my children sang and planned and dreamed, already home in their hearts, if not yet in their house. The sun climbed higher, blessing our journey with light that felt like approval from the universe itself. Or maybe that was just my imagination painting meaning onto a simple Saturday morning. Either way, we drove toward it, this little family of 3 who'd learned that sometimes the best thing you can do for people who don't value you is to leave and find the ones who do. Mile by mile, we shed the weight of other people's expectations. Mile by mile, we grew lighter. Mile by mile, we went home. The house was actually starting to feel like home when the first domino fell. We'd been in Millbrook for 2 weeks, boxes mostly unpacked, routines beginning to form. I was in the kitchen attempting to hang curtains while Emma did homework at our new dining table, and Noah played in the backyard when my phone rang with Angela's ringtone. "You need to sit down," she said without preamble. "Why, what happened?" "Jessica's not pregnant." I nearly dropped the curtain rod. "What?" "My friend Tara works at the prenatal clinic where Jessica supposedly had her appointments. She never showed. Not once. Tara's not supposed to tell me this, but she thought you should know. There's no record of her anywhere in the system." I sank into a chair, mind racing. But the announcement, the whole reason they moved in, was a lie, a complete fabrication. Sin, there's more. Marcus has been spotted at the casino 3 times this week, day drinking at the bar, playing high-stakes poker with money he doesn't have. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. The rushed move, the desperation, Jessica's strategic hand placement over her never-changing belly. They'd been buying time with a lie that gave them everything they needed: housing, sympathy, financial support. "I have to go," I told Angela. "I'll call you back." I sat there for a moment, processing. Part of me wanted to call my parents immediately to warn them, but the other part, the part that remembered my children crying on porch steps, whispered, "They made their choice." "Mom." Emma looked up from her math. "You okay?" "Just got some surprising news," I said carefully. "Adult stuff, nothing for you to worry about." But I was worried, not for Marcus or Jessica or even my parents, but for the inevitable explosion when this lie detonated. And it would. Lies this big always did. The explosion came faster than expected. 3 days later, on a Tuesday morning, while I was reviewing staff schedules at the hospital, my father called. His voice was shaking. "There's been an incident," he said. "Jessica and Marcus. They had a fight. The neighbors called the police." "Are they hurt?" "No, but Cynthia, she's not pregnant. She told him she lost the babies, but Marcus found fertility clinic paperwork in her purse. She was never pregnant. It was all a lie to force him to provide better." I bit my tongue to keep from saying I'd known for days. I'm sorry, Dad. Your mother is devastated. She'd already bought cribs, started a nursery. And Marcus, his voice broke. He's in debt, Cynthia. Serious debt. He lost his job 6 months ago and has been pretending everything was fine. The house they're supposedly building doesn't exist. It was all lies. What's going to happen now? Jessica left, packed up and gone within an hour of the fight, said she was going to her sister's in California. And Marcus, he's locked himself in his room, won't talk to us. We found empty bottles hidden all over the second floor. He's been drinking heavily for months. I looked around my office, small but mine, with a window overlooking the construction of what would be a healing place. My children were safe in schools that valued them breathing clean air in rooms they'd chosen themselves. We'd escaped before the collapse, and the relief was overwhelming. "Do you need anything?" I asked, because despite everything, he was still my father. "Your mother wants to see you. She said some things about being wrong, about Emma and Noah, about everything." "It's too late for that," I said, gently but firmly. "We're building a life here, a good one. I can't disrupt my children again because she's finally seeing what was always there." "I understand," he said quietly. "I just thought you should know, in case you wanted to. I don't know, say something." "Tell Marcus I'm sorry he's struggling," I said, "but also tell him that rock bottom can be a solid foundation if you're willing to build on truth instead of lies." After we hung up, I sat in my quiet office listening to the construction sounds outside. Hammering, drilling, building, creating something real and lasting and honest. The metaphor wasn't lost on me. That evening, I decided the kids were old enough to know a version of the truth. We sat in our living room, our real living room, not one where we were guests, and I explained simply, "Uncle Marcus and Aunt Jessica aren't having babies. They made a mistake and told a lie that hurt a lot of people." "Is that why we had to move to the basement?" Emma asked with that direct way of hers. "Part of it, yes. So we gave up our rooms for babies that weren't real." Noah's face scrunched in confusion. "Sometimes adults make very bad choices," I said. "But we're here now, and that's what matters." Emma was quiet for a moment. Then, "I feel sad for Grandma and Grandpa, but I'm glad we're here. Is that okay?" "That's more than okay," I assured her. "It's honest." My phone buzzed with texts throughout the evening. Family members who'd heard the news reaching out with shock and sympathy and barely disguised curiosity. I responded, minimally protecting our peace. Then around 8 p.m., a text from an unknown number. "This is Marcus. I know you probably hate me, but I need to say this. You were right to leave. Right to protect your kids. I'm sorry for everything. For the basement, for taking your inheritance, for letting Mom and Dad treat you like you mattered less. You were the smart one getting out when you did." I stared at the text for a long time before responding, "I don't hate you. I hope you find your way to something real. But that journey is yours to take, not mine to guide." "Fair enough. Tell Emma and Noah their uncle says they deserve every good thing, even if I couldn't see it before." I didn't respond again. Some conversations were better left incomplete, some bridges better left burned. The next day brought another call from my father. Marcus had agreed to rehab. My parents were downsizing, selling the big house and one of the rentals to pay for his treatment and debts. The golden child had tarnished completely, and they were scrambling to salvage what they could. "We're moving to the Maple Street rental," he said with deep irony. "The one we could have given you." I didn't point out the obvious, that they'd had options all along, choices that could have kept our family together, but they'd chosen the child who performed success over the one who quietly achieved it. "I hope it works out," I said, meaning it, not for them, but for the possibility of Marcus getting real help. "Your mother wants to know if she can write to the children. Letters. Not visits, just letters." I thought about it. Emma and Noah deserved to know they had grandparents, even flawed ones, but they also deserved protection from any more conditional love. Letters are fine, I decided. But I read them first. Any criticism, any guilt, any mention of them being too loud or too anything, and the letters stop. Understood. That evening, we had dinner in our kitchen. Spaghetti with sauce from a jar because I was too tired to cook properly. The kids didn't complain. Noah actually declared it the best dinner ever because we were eating it at our own table in our own house. "Mom," Emma said as I tucked her in, "do you think Uncle Marcus will be okay?" "I hope so, sweetheart. Sometimes people have to fall apart before they can rebuild better." "Like we did." I smoothed her hair back. "We didn't fall apart. We just finally stopped pretending broken things were whole." "I like our new whole," she said sleepily. "Me too, baby, me too." Later, I sat on my front porch despite the cold, wrapped in a blanket and holding tea that had gone lukewarm. The street was quiet porch lights creating that familiar pattern of suburban safety. My phone showed 17 unread messages from various family members. The family grapevine was working overtime spreading news of Marcus's spectacular fall from grace. I deleted them unopened. Their shock and scandal had nothing to do with us anymore. Inside my house, my children slept peacefully in rooms they'd chosen, dreaming dreams unweighted by other people's expectations. Tomorrow would bring school and work and the 1,000 small tasks of living. Normal things, real things, our things. The truth had been revealed in spectacular fashion just as lies always are eventually. The golden child exposed as pyrite, the fake pregnancy, a phantom that had displaced real children. The house of cards collapsed into the basement where my babies were supposed to live. But we weren't there to see it fall. We were here building something true on a foundation of love that didn't require performance or pretense. Just presence. Just us. Just enough. The stars were bright in the suburban sky, clearer than they'd ever been in the city. I picked out constellations Noah had taught me, connecting dots to form pictures of possibility. Inside, warm and waiting, was our truth. Modest but honest, imperfect, but ours, small but more than sufficient for hearts that had learned the difference between being housed and being home. Spring arrived in Millbrook like a promise kept. The last of the snow melted away, revealing green shoots in our garden that previous owners had planted. 3 months into our new life, and we'd found our rhythm. I left for work each morning, knowing my children would walk to schools that cherished them. I came home each evening to homework at the dining table and laughter in the backyard. The hospital was thriving. We'd successfully opened the emergency department ahead of schedule, and the community response was overwhelming. Dr. Coleman often said I'd helped create exactly what she'd envisioned, a place where medical excellence met genuine care. "You've built something special here," she told me during our weekly meeting. "The staff respects you, the patients trust you, and the metrics are exceeding projections. It's easy to do good work when you're valued," I replied, thinking of all the years I'd excelled despite being overlooked. "Speaking of being valued," she smiled, sliding a paper across her desk. "The board approved the salary increase. You're now at $103,000 annually. You've earned it." I stared at the number, remembering when I'd stretched $20 to last a week. "Thank you. This means more than you know." "I think I do know," she said gently. "Single mothers recognize each other. Use it well." That afternoon, I picked the kids up from school, a rare treat since I usually worked until 5. "We're celebrating," I announced. "Ice cream and good news." "What's the good news?" Noah asked, already bouncing with excitement. "I got a raise, and you know what that means?" "We can get a dog," both kids said in unison. I laughed. They'd been campaigning for 3 months. "We can seriously look for a dog." The cheering that followed probably violated several noise ordinances, but I didn't care. My children were allowed to be loud in their joy. At the ice cream shop, Emma chose mint chocolate chip, while Noah went for Superman. I got butter pecan and thought about how these small choices, picking flavors without checking prices first, were freedoms I'd never take for granted. Mom, Emma, said, working on her cone with serious concentration. "Sarah from my class is having a sleepover for her birthday. Can I go?" "Of course, sweetie." "And can I bring the nice sleeping bag, not the one with the hole?" My heart clenched remembering her embarrassment at a school camping trip last year when her sleeping bag was held together with duct tape. "We'll get you a new sleeping bag, any color you want." "Really?" "Really." Noah looked up with ice cream on his nose. "Can I get new cleats for soccer? Mine are getting small." "We'll go this weekend," I promised. New cleats, new sleeping bag, maybe a dog. Once upon a time, these normal childhood things would have required weeks of saving and sacrifice. Now they were just part of life. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me look. "Hi, Cynthia. This is Brad. I heard you moved. I'd like to discuss adjusting the custody arrangement to include regular visits." I nearly dropped my phone. My ex-husband, who hadn't asked to see the kids in months, suddenly interested now that we were thriving. "What's wrong, Mom?" Emma asked, too perceptive as always. "Nothing important," I said, tucking the phone away. "Just someone who thinks they can walk back into our lives whenever it's convenient." That evening, after the kids were in bed, I called my lawyer. He laughed when I told him about Brad's sudden interest. "Let me guess, he heard about your promotion and new house." "Probably. And now he wants to be Father of the Year Classic. Don't worry, his abandonment is well documented. He can ask, but the court won't disrupt the children's stability just because he's finally curious. If he wants to rebuild a relationship, it'll be on your terms, at your pace." "He's living in Seattle with his new family," I said. "Brittany's pregnant with their second. Then visitation would mean flights disruption to schooling, massive changes. The court won't force that. Breathe, Cynthia. You hold all the cards here." After we hung up, I sat in my living room, and thought about control. For so long, other people had held the cards. Brad deciding our marriage was too boring. My parents deciding my children belonged in a basement. Marcus and Jessica deciding their lies mattered more than our truth. But now I was the one making decisions. Where we lived, how we lived, who had access to our lives. The power was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. My phone rang, my father. "Hello, Dad." "Cynthia, I wanted you to know Marcus completed 30 days of rehab. He's doing better. Facing things honestly for the first time in years." "That's good to hear," I said, meaning it. "He's living in our small rental now. Got a job at a car dealership. Nothing fancy, but it's honest work. He wanted me to tell you he's 6 weeks sober. I'm glad he's getting help. Your mother, she's struggling. The house sale went through, and seeing all those empty rooms where she'd imagined grandchildren playing, it's been hard. I thought of my children playing in our backyard, their laughter carrying on spring air. Grandchildren she could have been watching if she'd seen them for who they were instead of what they weren't. Change is hard, I acknowledged. She's written letters to Emma and Noah, 3 drafts. She keeps starting over trying to get the words right. I think she's afraid of saying the wrong thing. "She should be," I said simply. Words matter, especially to children who remember being told they were too loud to exist. He was quiet for a moment. "We failed you, didn't we? Failed all of you." "You made choices," I corrected. "And choices have consequences. We're living with ours. You're living with yours. Is there any chance, any possibility of repair?" I looked at the wall where Emma's school awards hung next to Noah's soccer team photo, evidence of thriving children who'd learned they were worthy of celebration. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Trust takes time to rebuild. But if Mom wants to send those letters, I'll read them. If they're appropriate, the kids can have them. That's all I can offer right now." "It's more than we deserve," he said quietly. After we hung up, I made a cup of tea and took it to the front porch. The neighbor's cat wandered over, winding around my legs. Down the street, teenagers laughed on someone's front steps. Normal neighborhood sounds that still felt like a miracle. Brad wanted back in. My parents wanted forgiveness. Marcus was trying to rebuild. Everyone seemed to be reassessing now that we were gone, now that we were thriving without them. But their timing wasn't my emergency. Their regrets weren't my responsibility. My responsibility was asleep upstairs, dreaming of dogs and sleepovers and soccer games. My responsibility was showing them that love didn't require performance, that worth wasn't conditional, that sometimes the best response to people who diminish you is to flourish without them. The night was mild spring, asserting itself with increasing confidence. Tomorrow was Saturday. Farmers market in the morning, soccer practice in the afternoon, maybe looking at dogs at the shelter. Simple plans for a simple life that was anything but simple to achieve. My phone buzzed with another text from Brad. I deleted it without reading. He could wait. He could wonder. He could realize that walking away from your children meant sometimes they walked forward without you. Inside my house, all was quiet. Noah had kicked off his covers again, so I tucked him back in smoothing hair that needed cutting. Emma had fallen asleep with a book, her new reading light still on. I marked her page and turned it off, kissing her forehead. "Love you, Mom," she murmured without waking. "Love you too, baby." This was what mattered. Not the people clamoring for second chances they hadn't earned, but the ones who'd taken this leap of faith with me. The ones who'd packed their treasures without complaint and trusted me to find something better. The house settled around us with comfortable sounds, the heating system cycling on the refrigerator, humming the clock in the hallway, marking time that belonged to us. No longer borrowed, no longer conditional, no longer dependent on someone else's approval. Just ours, just home, just the beginning of everything we'd always deserved and finally had the courage to claim. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. Brad to deal with letters, to review boundaries, to maintain. But tonight, in our house on Maple Street, 3 hearts beat in safety and peace, dreaming dreams that had room to grow. And that was more than enough. That was everything. Summer in Millbrook arrived with the kind of warmth that invited new beginnings. 6 months into our new life, we'd settled into rhythms that felt sustainable and real. Emma had made best friends with Sarah from her class. Noah's soccer team made it to the regional playoffs, and I'd been promoted to Associate Director of Emergency Services. We were at the farmer's market on a Saturday morning in June, Noah haggling with a vendor over the price of honey sticks when my phone rang. My mother. I almost didn't answer. The letters she'd sent had been appropriate if stiff and the kids had read them without much reaction, but something made me swipe accept. "Marcus is missing," she said, without preamble, panic threading through every word. "He didn't show up for work for 3 days. His sponsor hasn't heard from him. The police say we can't file a report yet, but Cynthia, I know something's wrong." My stomach dropped. Despite everything, he was still my brother. "When did you last see him?" "Sunday dinner. He seemed good, talked about his 90-day chip coming up. But his landlord called yesterday. His apartment door was open, wallet and keys on the counter, but he's gone." "I'll make some calls," I heard myself saying. "Check with hospitals between here and there." "Thank you," she breathed. "I know we don't deserve your help, but—" "This isn't about deserving—" I cut her off. "I'll call you back." I sent the kids to look at the bakery stall and started making calls. My position gave me access to hospital networks, and I worked my way through systematically. Nothing. No Marcus Martinez admitted anywhere within a 200-mile radius. Then my phone rang, unknown number, local area code. "Is this Cynthia Martinez?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes." "This is Shelley from Hope House Shelter. Your brother is here. He's in rough shape, but he's safe. He said you're his emergency contact." Relief flooded through me. "Can I speak to him?" "He's sleeping now. Been here since Monday. Showed up drunk, talking about debts and disappointing everyone. We got him sobered up, but he refuses to call your parents. Said he couldn't face them after relapsing." I closed my eyes, calculating. "I'll be there in 2 hours." "Mom," Emma had returned clutching a bag of apple cider donuts. "What's wrong?" "Uncle Marcus needs help," I said simply. "Would you guys be okay spending the day with the Johnsons? Noah can go to soccer practice with Tyler." They exchanged glances, then Noah said, "Is he going to be okay?" "I hope so, buddy. Sometimes helping family means showing up even when it's complicated." 2 hours later, I walked into Hope House, a converted Victorian that had seen better days, but radiated the kind of worn comfort that spoke of refuge. Shelley, a woman with kind eyes and paint-stained jeans, met me at the desk. "He's awake now, been beating himself up pretty hard about falling off the wagon." She led me to a common room where Marcus sat hunched on a couch looking smaller than I'd ever seen him, my golden brother reduced to shaking hands and hollow eyes. "Sin," his voice cracked, "what are you doing here?" "Being your sister," I said, sitting beside him. "What happened?" The story tumbled out in pieces. The pressure of staying sober while dealing with mounting debts, running into Jessica at a gas station with her new boyfriend, the first drink to take the edge off that turned into a 3-day bender, waking up in a park knowing he'd destroyed 3 months of hard work. "I can't call Mom and Dad," he said. "I can't see their faces when they realize I'm exactly the failure you always knew I was." "I never thought you were a failure," I said quietly. "I thought you were lost. There's a difference." He looked at me, then really looked maybe for the first time in years. "How do you not hate me after the basement, after everything?" "Because hate is heavy," I said. "And I've got 2 kids to raise. I don't have energy for heavy things that don't serve them." "I'm so sorry," he whispered, "for all of it. For letting them treat you like second best. For taking what should have been shared. For being too wrapped up in my own image to see what it cost you." "I know," I said. And surprisingly, I did know. Could feel the truth of his regret in every broken line of his body. "What do I do now?" he asked. "I've got nothing, less than nothing. Just debt and disappointment in this," he gestured at himself, "mess." "You start over," I said. "Same as I did. One decision at a time, one truth at a time. But first you call Mom and Dad. They're worried sick." He shook his head. "I can't. Not yet. Not like this." I pulled out my phone and called my mother, putting it on speaker before he could protest. "I found him. He's safe. He's with me." "Oh, thank God," she sobbed. "Where is he hurt?" "He's at a shelter in Millbrook. He relapsed, but he's sober now. He needs some time before he's ready to see you." "Can I talk to him? Please." I looked at Marcus, who was shrinking into the couch. "Mom wants to talk to you." He shook his head violently, but I held the phone steady. "Marcus needs a moment, Mom, but he can hear you." "Marcus!" Her voice cracked through the speaker. "Oh, sweetheart, I don't care about the relapse. I don't care about any of it. I just need to know you're alive. You're my son, my baby. Perfect or imperfect, sober or struggling, you're mine. Please come home. Or let me come there. Just, please." I watched my brother's face crumble. The golden child armor he'd worn for 36 years, finally completely shattered. "Mom," he whispered. "I'm here, baby. I'm right here." What followed was the kind of raw conversation that should have happened years ago. Apologies and tears and truths that had been buried under expectations and image management. I stepped outside to give them privacy, finding myself in a garden where residents grew vegetables. Shelley found me there. "He's lucky to have you." "We're all lucky when we get second chances," I said, "or third, or whatever number we're on." An hour later, Marcus found me in the garden. He looked wrung out, but clearer somehow. "Mom and Dad are driving up. Is that okay? I mean, it's your town now. I don't want to bring their drama to your door." "This isn't about territory," I said. "It's about you getting help." But Marcus, really getting help this time. Not performing recovery for approval, but doing the work because you deserve to be well. He nodded slowly. "I want to see Emma and Noah. Not today, but someday. When I'm steady. When I can be the uncle they deserve." "Earn it," I said simply. "Show up consistently, do the work, prove you're safe for them to love. And when you're ready, really ready, we'll see." My parents arrived as the sun was setting. They looked older, smaller, diminished by the weight of expectations that had collapsed around them. My mother hugged me awkwardly in the parking lot. "Thank you for finding him, for calling, for—" She gestured helplessly. "He's my brother," I said. "Complicated doesn't mean disposable." My father cleared his throat. Could we see where you live? Meet your neighbors? See the children?" Not today, I said firmly. Today is about Marcus, but maybe someday when trust is rebuilt, when apologies become changed behavior, when my children can believe that love from you isn't dependent on their achievements. They nodded, accepting the boundary with a grace they'd never shown before. Rock bottom, it seemed, was teaching lessons to everyone. I stayed until Marcus was settled with our parents at a nearby hotel. He'd go back with them tomorrow, back to rehab with a better foundation this time. The golden child was tarnished beyond recognition, but maybe that's what he needed to be. Just human, just struggling, just real. As I drove home through streets that had become familiar, I thought about family. Not the Hallmark card version, but the messy reality of people who share history and DNA and complicated love. How sometimes distance was necessary for perspective. How sometimes leaving was the only way to create space for eventual return. How sometimes the best thing you could do for someone was refuse to enable their destruction, even when it looked like abandonment. I pulled into my driveway to find Emma and Noah playing catch in the front yard, our new golden retriever, aptly named Sunny, barking joyfully at their heels. They ran to greet me full of questions about Uncle Marcus and whether he was okay. He will be, I told them. He's getting help, real help this time. Can we see him? Noah asked. Someday, I said, when he's stronger, when we're all ready. I'm glad you helped him, Emma said seriously. Even though he wasn't nice to us, that's what family does, right? Help even when it's hard. That's exactly what family does, I agreed, pulling them close. But family also protects itself, sets boundaries, chooses who gets close access to their hearts. We went inside where dinner needed making and homework needed checking and dogs needed feeding. Normal life which felt extraordinary in its simplicity. Through the kitchen window, I could see the treehouse where my children played pirates and astronauts and everything in between. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Thank you for showing me that starting over is possible, for proving that falling apart doesn't mean staying broken. I'm going to earn my way back, to health, to family, to being an uncle worth knowing. You saved my life today. I typed back, you saved your own life when you asked for help. I just answered the call. And that's what family did, I realized. Not the toxic version I'd grown up with where love was currency and worth was measured in achievements, but real family. The kind you choose and build and protect. The kind that showed up even when it was complicated. The kind that knew when to hold close and when to hold boundaries. The kind that believed in redemption but required evidence of change. Outside summer evening painted everything gold. Inside, my children set the table while telling me about their day, their voices filling our home with the kind of music money couldn't buy and basements couldn't contain. We'd all had our reckonings. Me with my parents, Marcus with his demons, my children with the reality that love should be unconditional. Now came the harder part, rebuilding with wisdom, instead of just hope boundaries, instead of just forgiveness, truth, instead of just family loyalty. But for tonight in our house on Maple Street, we were safe and whole and together. The rest could wait for tomorrow. The rest always could. A year had passed since our move to Millbrook, and autumn had painted our street in shades of gold and amber. The house on Maple Street had witnessed 4 seasons of our new life, each one bringing its own growth and challenges. This morning I stood at my kitchen window, coffee in hand, watching Emma teach Sunny a new trick in the backyard, while Noah raked leaves into a pile he clearly intended to jump in. "Successful morning?" Daniel asked, coming up behind me. I leaned back against him, still marveling that this good man had entered our lives 6 months ago. A pediatrician at the hospital, divorced with a daughter Emma's age, he understood single parenthood and blended family dynamics. We were taking things slowly, but the kids adored him, and his daughter Mia had become Emma's inseparable companion. Define successful? I laughed as Noah abandoned all pretense of yard work and dove into the leaf pile with Sunny. No emergency calls from the hospital, no crisis texts from extended family, and the coffee's still hot. I'd say you're winning. He was right. The last year had taught me to appreciate quiet mornings, drama-free weekends, the luxury of biggest concerns being homework and soccer schedules. "Mom," Emma called from outside. "Can Mia come over after her dance class? We want to work on our science project." "Of course," I called back then to Daniel. "You're still good to pick her up." "Already in the plan," he assured me. "Though I should warn you, they're building a volcano. There may be eruptions in your future." The doorbell rang before I could respond. I wasn't expecting anyone, but in a neighborhood like ours, it could be Girl Scouts selling cookies or the elderly Mrs. Chen from next door needing help with her groceries. I opened the door to find my parents standing on my porch. They looked different, smaller somehow. My father's hair had gone completely gray, and my mother's usual perfect presentation was replaced by comfortable clothes and minimal makeup. They held hands like they were keeping each other upright. "We should have called," my mother said quietly, "but we were driving through and we wanted to try." A year ago, this surprise visit would have sent me into a panic. Now I felt oddly calm. Driving through to where? "Marcus's 1-year celebration," my father said. "He's getting his year chip tonight. He asked us to come." "He invited us too," I said, which made my mother's eyes widen. "We're going. The kids have been writing to him." "They have for the last 4 months, since he proved he could stay consistent with his recovery." An awkward silence stretched between us. Daniel appeared at my shoulder, solid and supportive without being intrusive. "This is Daniel," I said. "Daniel, these are my parents, Patricia and Robert." Handshakes were exchanged with the careful politeness of people navigating complicated terrain. "Would you like to come in?" I heard myself asking. "The kids are in the backyard." My mother's breath caught. "Could we really—" "For a short visit," I said firmly, "and only if you can follow some ground rules." They nodded eagerly, and I laid out the boundaries that had taken therapy and experience to articulate no comments about the house being small, no comparisons to Marcus or anyone else, no guilt about the past, no promises about the future they might not keep. Just be present, be kind, be grandparents if they could remember how. They followed me through my home, and I watched them take in the details. Emma's honor roll certificates on the refrigerator, Noah's soccer trophies on the mantle, family photos that included Angela and Miguel and our chosen family, the life we'd built without them, full and complete. The back door opened to reveal my children in their natural habitat, covered in leaves, laughing with the dog wholly themselves. They froze when they saw who stood beside me. "Grandma, Grandpa," Emma said uncertainly. "Hi, sweetheart." My mother said, her voice thick with unshed tears. "You've grown so tall." "I'm the tallest girl in 5th grade," Emma said with shy pride. Noah hung back, but Sonny had no such reservations, bounding over to investigate the newcomers with muddy paws and enthusiastic tail wags. "I'm sorry," I started, but my father was already kneeling accepting dog kisses with something like wonder. "What's his name?" he asked Noah. "Her name is Sunny," Noah corrected. "She knows 12 tricks. Want to see—" And just like that, the ice cracked. Not melted, not gone, but cracked enough for careful conversation to flow through. The kids showed off Sunny's repertoire while my parents watched with expressions I'd never seen before. Humble attention, genuine interest, no agenda beyond the moment. "Your room is purple," my mother asked Emma when she mentioned her reading nook. "The purplest purple," Emma confirmed. "Mom let me pick the exact shade. Want to see—" I almost intervened, but Daniel caught my eye with a look that said, "Let them try." So I did, following as Emma led her grandparents upstairs, pointing out everything with the pride of a child who knew her space was truly hers. "It's beautiful," my mother said, taking in the built-in bookshelves, the window seat, the carefully curated collections of rocks and shells and stories. "Just right for you. Mom says I can paint it different when I'm older if I change my mind," Emma explained. "But I don't think I will. Purple's been my favorite for 3 whole years now." Noah showed them his room next, complete with soccer posters and the telescope positioned at his window. My parents made appropriate appreciative noises, but I caught my mother wiping away tears when she thought no one was looking. Back downstairs, Daniel had made coffee and set out the cookies Emma had baked yesterday. We sat at my dining room table, the one I'd bought at an estate sale and refinished myself, and attempted normal conversation. "Marcus told us about your promotion," my father ventured. "Associate director is impressive." "The hospital's been good to me," I said simply. "Good to all of us." "And you're happy here?" My mother asked the question loaded with things she couldn't quite say. I looked at my children animated as they told Daniel's daughter Mia, who'd arrived with perfect timing about their grandparents' visit. At Daniel, steady and kind, helping Noah demonstrate Sonny's newest trick. At the sun streaming through windows, I'd hung curtains and illuminating a life I'd built from determination and hope. "Yes," I said, "we're happy here." She nodded, accepting this truth that excluded them from daily participation. "We're glad. We're so—" She stopped, started again. "We made terrible mistakes, chose wrong, saw what we wanted instead of what was real. There's no excuse, just regret." "I appreciate you saying that," I said carefully, "but apologies are just words. What matters is what comes next." "What can come next?" my father asked. "We know we can't undo the basement, the favoritism, the blindness. But is there any path forward?" I thought about Marcus working at his year chip one day at a time, about trust rebuilt slowly, carefully, with consistent action, about children who deserved grandparents, but only if those grandparents could love them as they were. "Maybe," I said finally, "visits occasionally, supervised at first, building slowly, but the first time anyone makes my children feel less than it's done. No second chances on that." "We understand," my mother said quickly, "whatever you're comfortable with, whatever serves them best." The visit lasted another hour, carefully choreographed around safe topics. The kids showed off school projects. My parents asked appropriate questions. Nobody mentioned the past except in glancing references that slid by like clouds. As they prepared to leave, Emma surprised everyone by hugging my mother. Quick and light, but genuine. "Maybe you could come to my winter concert. I have a solo." "If your mom says it's okay." My mother managed through fresh tears. Noah, ever practical, shook hands with my father. "You could see my soccer games too. I'm getting really good at corner kicks." After they left, promises to be in touch, hanging in the air like hope, the kids scattered to their Saturday activities. Daniel helped clean up, giving me space to process. "You okay?" he asked eventually. "I think so," I said, surprised to find it true. A year ago, that would have destroyed me. Now it just feels possible. Not promised, not certain, but possible. "Your boundaries were clear," he noted, "and they respected them. That's something." "It is," I agreed. Marcus warned me they've been doing their own work, therapy apparently, coming to terms with their role in everything falling apart. "Do you want them back in your life?" I considered this watching Noah through the window as he tried to teach Sonny to play soccer. "I want my children to have as much healthy love as possible. If my parents can offer that, really offer it, not the conditional version, then yes. But I won't sacrifice their security for anyone's redemption." That evening, we drove to the community center where Marcus was receiving his one-year chip. He looked different. Not the bloated desperation of rock bottom or the manic performance of false recovery, but genuinely centered. He'd gained healthy weight, lost the hollow eyes, found work as a substance abuse counselor. "You came," he said, hugging me tight, "and you brought them." Emma and Noah hung back initially, but Marcus knelt to their level. "I know I haven't been a good uncle. I wasn't even a good person for a while. But I'm working on it every day. Thank you for giving me a chance to try again." "Mom says trying is what counts," Noah offered. "As long as you keep trying." "Smart mom," Marcus said, his voice thick. The meeting was powerful in its simplicity. People sharing stories of falling and rising, of losing everything and building better. When Marcus received his chip, he spoke briefly. "A year ago, my sister saved my life by refusing to enable my destruction. She showed me that love sometimes means letting people face consequences, that starting over is possible at any age, that the bottom can be a foundation if you're willing to build with truth. This chip is for her as much as me, as much. I wiped away tears, not caring who saw. My children sat on either side of me, witnessing what recovery looked like, what redemption required. Daniel held my hand, anchoring me to the present, while the past rearranged itself into something bearable. After the meeting, we all went for ice cream. Marcus, my parents, my kids, Daniel, and Mia. An odd assembled family, careful with each other, but trying. Emma told Marcus about her science volcano. Noah explained soccer strategies. My parents listened without comparing, correcting, or controlling. "This is nice," my mother said quietly to me. "Different than I imagined, but nice." "Different can be good," I replied. "Yes," she agreed, "it can." As we drove home, the kids chattering about their day, I marveled at how far we'd all come. From a basement to bedrooms of their own, from conditional love to chosen family, from performing success to living authenticity. "Mom," Emma said as I tucked her in, "today was weird, but good. Is that okay?" "That's perfect," I assured her. "Weird but good is sometimes the best we can hope for with complicated families." "I like our regular family better," she admitted. "You and Noah and Sunny and Daniel and Mia. But maybe there's room for extra family too." "Maybe," I agreed. "We'll see how it goes." Downstairs, Daniel was reading on the couch, Sunny sprawled across his feet. This good man who'd entered our lives without drama, who understood boundaries and baggage, who loved my children for exactly who they were. "Thank you," I said, curling up beside him. "For today, for understanding, for all of it." "Thank you for letting me be part of it," he replied. "Your kids are amazing. You're amazing. This life you've built is amazing." "We built," I corrected. "All of us. Even the complicated parts." Outside, autumn wind scattered leaves across our yard, preparing for another winter. But inside, we were warm and safe and whole. Not perfect, but real. Not without complications, but without conditions. The full circle wasn't about returning to where we started. It was about coming around to a new beginning informed by the journey, strengthened by the struggles, clarified by the choices. My parents might become part of our lives again, carefully, slowly. Marcus might become the uncle my children deserved, or not. Either way, we'd be okay. Because home wasn't about who you were related to by blood. It was about who showed up consistently, who loved without scorekeeping, who celebrated your purple room and your corner kicks and your 12-trick dog. Home was here on Maple Street, where love had room to grow and families could be weird but good, and starting over was just another word for finally getting it right. 2 years, 730 days since I'd found my children crying on porch steps, their belongings banished to a moldy basement. 24 months of building, growing, healing, becoming. As I stood in my kitchen this Christmas morning, watching snow dust our neighborhood in pristine white, I could barely recognize the woman who'd smiled through her rage that day, already planning an escape she didn't know how to execute. "Mom, Mom," Noah burst through the door, Sunny at his heels, both of them covered in snow. "Grandma and Grandpa are here, and Uncle Marcus, and they brought presents." "I see that." I laughed, brushing snow from his hair. "Did you invite them in or leave them on the porch?" "Daniel's getting them," he reported. "Emma's showing them the cookies we made yesterday, the ones that look like Sunny." Through the window, I could see my parents' car, modest now after downsizing their lives to match their means. Marcus emerged from the back seat 2 years sober, carrying an armload of wrapped packages. His movements were steady, purposeful. A far cry from the desperate energy that used to propel him. "You good?" Daniel asked, appearing in the doorway with his gentle awareness of potentially complicated moments. "I'm good," I said, meaning it. "It's just Christmas morning with family, all the family complicated and simple together." The living room filled with controlled chaos. Emma and Mia had become expert co-hosts, directing traffic and distributing hot chocolate. My parents sat carefully on our couch, accepting their roles as guests in this space they'd never imagined their daughter could create. Marcus sprawled on the floor with Noah already deep in discussion about soccer strategies. Before we start presents, I said, getting everyone's attention, I wanted to say something. The room settled, even Sunny sensing the moment's importance. 2 years ago, our lives exploded. What felt like the worst thing became the catalyst for the best things. We lost a version of family that was hurting us and found one that helps us thrive. We've learned that love isn't supposed to have conditions, that worth isn't measured in achievements, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is start over. I looked at my parents, who were holding hands again, that new habit of theirs that spoke of nearly losing each other in their pursuit of a golden child who'd never existed. We've all learned hard lessons. That putting children in basements, literal or metaphorical, creates damage that takes years to repair. That choosing favorites in families leaves everyone broken, even the chosen ones. That lies might buy time, but truth always comes collecting. Marcus nodded, his recovery story written in every honest line of his face. But we've also learned that people can change, that rock bottom can become a foundation, that family can be rebuilt with better blueprints, that forgiveness is possible when accompanied by genuine transformation. Emma reached for my hand, my wise girl, who'd learned too young that love could be conditional, but had refused to let that knowledge make her cynical. This Christmas in this house, where everyone has their own room and no one lives in the basement, we're together by choice, not obligation, not manipulation, not because we have nowhere else to go, but because we've all done the work to deserve seats at this table. Even me, Noah asked in his earnest way. Especially you, buddy. You and Emma did the hardest work of all, staying open to love after being hurt by it. My mother was crying quietly, the kind of tears that came from understanding rather than manipulation. "Thank you," she whispered, "for the second chance we didn't deserve." "Everyone deserves second chances," I said, "but not everyone does the work to earn them. You did. Marcus did. That matters." "Can we do presents now?" Mia asked, with the perfect timing of a child who knew when adults needed saving from their own emotions. The morning unfolded with the kind of joy that came from chosen celebration. Gifts were exchanged, thoughtful rather than expensive, meaningful rather than impressive. My parents had found old photo albums from my childhood restored and organized with notes about each memory. Marcus gave the kids vouchers for monthly uncle-niece-nephew adventures, his commitment to showing up written in careful calligraphy. But the best gift was the ease of it all. No performance, no competition, no sense that love was being measured and rationed. Just family. Blood and chosen, complicated and simple, all of us imperfect but trying. "Remember when you asked if I thought things would work out?" Angela said, appearing with Miguel and his family for Christmas dinner. Our dining room expanded with leaves and extra chairs, voices overlapping in English and Spanish laughter, bouncing off walls that had learned joy. I was terrified. I admitted watching Noah teach his younger cousin Sonny's tricks. $47,000 and a prayer didn't feel like enough to build a life on. "But look what you built." She gestured at the controlled chaos of too many people in not quite enough space, everyone happy about it. Not just a house or a career, but this. All of this. After dinner, as the younger kids played with new toys and the adults lingered over coffee, my mother pulled me aside. "I need to tell you something," she said, "about why we were so blind to what we were doing." I waited, curious despite myself. "I grew up poor," she said simply. "Really poor. The kind where you hide from landlords and pray the electricity doesn't get shut off. When Marcus showed all that early promise, exceeded every expectation, I thought if I just pushed hard enough, supported him enough, he'd never have to feel that fear. I forgot that you were succeeding too, just differently, quietly, without fanfare. And Dad loved me enough to enable my fears instead of challenging them. We created this mythology around Marcus, this story, where his success would somehow retroactively fix my childhood. It was never about you, Cynthia. You were just collateral damage in my war with poverty." "That doesn't make it okay," I said gently. No, she agreed. It doesn't. But understanding it helps me not repeat it. When I see Emma and Noah now, I see them. Not projects or disappointments or futures to be molded, but complete people deserving of unconditional love. That's all I ever wanted, I said, and found I could hug her without resentment for the first time in years. As evening settled over Maple Street, our guests began departing with promises of soon and next time, and see you Sunday. My parents left with careful hugs and genuine gratitude. Marcus lingered, helping with dishes like he'd always belonged in our kitchen. "I'm proud of you," he said quietly, drying while I washed. "For all of this. For showing me it was possible to rebuild." "We're both rebuilding," I reminded him. "Just different structures." "Yeah, but you included me in yours. After everything. That's grace I'm still learning to accept." "Grace gets easier with practice," Daniel said, joining us with the last of the plates. "Trust me on that one." After everyone left and the kids were in bed, Mia having a sleepover in Emma's purple paradise, Daniel and I sat on our porch, despite the cold wrapped in blankets and contentment. "So what's the lesson?" he asked. "If you had to distill all of this down to something someone else could use." I thought about the question watching snow fall on our street, where every house held its own stories of struggle and triumph. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the best thing that could have happened. My parents putting my kids in that basement broke something in me, but it broke something that needed breaking. My willingness to accept less than we deserved. Every cruel word, every dismissal, every moment of being deemed insufficient pushed me toward sufficiency I'd never have claimed otherwise. And the forgiveness part, that's harder, I admitted. Forgiveness isn't forgetting or pretending it didn't happen. It's deciding the weight of resentment is too heavy to carry forward. It's choosing to believe people can change while maintaining boundaries that protect you if they don't. It's understanding that hurt people, but healing people can heal people too. "Your kids are lucky," he said, pulling me closer. "To have a mom who fought for their worth when everyone else was calculating their value." "We're all lucky," I corrected. "To have found each other, to have learned these lessons, to have built something real from the rubble of something false." Inside our house settled into sleep with contented sounds. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, work and school and the daily negotiations of blended family life. But tonight, Christmas night, in our second year on Maple Street, everything felt possible. My phone lit up with a text from Emma sent from her room with the modern child's preference for digital communication, even within shouting distance. "Best Christmas ever. Love you, Mom. Thank you for our house and our family and for not giving up when things got hard." I smiled, texting back, "Love you too, sweet girl. Thank you for trusting me to find us something better." Another text this time from Noah. "Can Sunny sleep in my room tonight? She's scared of the snow." "Sunny's not scared of anything," I replied. "But yes, she can sleep in your room." "Thanks, Mom. You're the best mom in the whole world." Not the best mom in the whole world, I thought. Just a mom who'd learned that love multiplied when divided equally, that worth wasn't earned, but inherent. That sometimes the best thing you could do for people who put you in the basement was to rise so far above it they had to crane their necks to see you. But mostly I was a mom who'd learned that home wasn't something you begged for or settled for or accepted with grateful tears. Home was something you built one choice at a time, one boundary at a time, one act of fierce love at a time. Home was where your children's artwork covered the walls without apology, where dogs slept on beds and tracked mud through kitchens and nobody called it a crisis, where love came without conditions and stayed without keeping score. Home was here on Maple Street in a house we'd bought with overtime hours and stubborn hope. And everyone who entered it, blood family or chosen, had to meet us at this level. No basements, no conditions, no apologies for existing fully and joyfully and louder than convenience preferred. The snow kept falling, blanketing everything in fresh possibility. Tomorrow it would need shoveling, tracking, managing. But tonight it was just beautiful, just peaceful, just right. "Merry Christmas," Daniel said, and I heard in those two words everything we'd built and everything still to come. Merry Christmas. I agreed, and for the first time in my life, I meant it with my whole heart. I hope our story has touched your heart as much as it's touched mine to tell it. If you've ever been told you're too much or not enough, if you've ever had to choose between toxic family and your children's well-being, if you've ever wondered whether starting over in your 30s or 40s or beyond is possible, let me tell you it is. The basement they put you in doesn't define you. The love they withhold doesn't determine your worth. The family that fails you doesn't prevent you from building one that sustains you. What would you do if someone tried to put your children, literal or metaphorical, in a basement? Would you accept it to keep the peace, or would you pack your bags and build something better? I'd love to hear your thoughts and your own stories of choosing your worth over others' comfort. Please share in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and share it with anyone who needs reminding that they deserve better than the basement. Subscribe for more stories of triumph over family trauma and the beautiful possibilities that await when we finally choose ourselves. Thank you for being part of our journey from basement to belonging. Remember, you are worthy of rooms with windows, love without conditions, and a life where you never have to apologize for existing fully. Until next time, this is Cynthia, Emma, Noah, and yes, even Sunny, reminding you that the best revenge against those who underestimate you is a life well lived, surrounded by those who see your true worth. Stay strong, stay true, and never accept the basement. With love and hope from Maple Street, Cynthia.